Good morning, everyone. My name is Arpan Banerjee. I'm a doctoral fellow at the Department of East Asian Studies, University of Delhi, and academic counselor at IGNOU. And welcome to my learning session. So, I have been teaching you people the paper Administrative Thinkers, the code of which is BPAC 132. Now, in this paper, that is Administrative Thinkers, we have so far done the first unit, that consisted of Kautilya and Mahatma Gandhi ji. And as part of the second unit, we have covered Unit 3, that is the first unit of the Block 2, that is Woodrow Wilson. We have covered that in the last class. And in this class, we are going to start with the next unit of this block, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor. And then we are going to move on to Henry Fayol and Max Weber. So let's proceed and let's begin our class today with Frederick Winslow Taylor. Now, Frederick Winslow Taylor, the most important thing that we are going to study regarding Frederick Winslow Taylor is his concept of scientific management. So the scientific management theory of Frederick Winslow Taylor is what we are going to emphasize on in this class, which was the first systematic theory of administration. So the scientific management theory that Frederick Winslow Taylor gave was the first systematic theory of administration. And although the term scientific management itself was not coined by Frederick Winslow Taylor, rather it was coined by a judge in United States called Louis Brandeis in 1910. However, it was Frederick Winslow Taylor who used the term to explain scientific methods and techniques for increasing organizational efficiency. So he may not have coined the term, but he used it to explain scientific methods and techniques for increasing organizational efficiency. Hence, Frederick Winslow Taylor is regarded as the father of scientific management, and scientific management itself has become synonymous with his name, and it is also called Taylorism. So, Frederick Winslow Taylor, he was born in Pennsylvania, and he started working as an apprentice from the age of 18 at Philadelphia, and later also worked as a laborer for a few years. It was only in 1884 that Frederick Winslow Taylor rose to the position of chief engineer, and in 1890 he became the general manager of a manufacturing company in Maine. Maine is a state in United States of America. So in 1890, Taylor became general manager of a manufacturing company in Maine. And finally, from 1901 onwards, he devoted his time to the research work on public administration, especially scientific management, and he kept on doing that until he passed away in 1915. Now, his contributions in the scientific management theory can be studied from his papers. So he wrote 4 major papers from which we get his theories on public administration and scientific management specifically. So the first paper that he wrote was called A Piece Rate System, which he wrote in 1895, followed by Shop Management in 1903. So Piece Rate System in 1895, Shop Management in 1903, and The Art of Cutting Metals in 1906, and finally his magnum opus, his most important paper, that is the Principles of Scientific Management in 1911. So in Taylor's scientific management, he focused on a few major things. So the first thing he focused on was the reasons. He identified the reasons for reduced production. So production in United States factories and in industries had become reduced, was reducing, was on a decline. So Taylor tried to identify the reasons behind this reduced production. And also, he gave certain assumptions of scientific management, followed by certain principles of scientific management, and also certain elements or techniques of scientific management. So, these are the things we are going to focus on in Taylor in this paper, who is also called the father of scientific management. And scientific management itself has been referred to as Taylorism, and the principles that Taylor gave, they have universal applicability. So they are not specific only, they have not only been tried and applied in the United States, but they have been applied in other countries as well, like Russia, and even in third world countries as well. And so his principles have universal applicability and also large social applicability as well, because it focuses on the lowest level of the organization and also on the relationship between physical as well as physiological nature of work. So its principles are not only restricted to the United States but have also been implemented and tried in many other countries as well. So let us move on. So Taylor, as I told you, he identified the reasons for reduced production, and he identified two major reasons why production was getting reduced. The first reason that he identified was the phenomena of soldiering. So he identified the phenomena of soldiering, and the second was initiative and incentive based management. So now let us see what this soldiering thing is. So soldiering is basically, it refers to the tendency of the employees to restrict the work output. So when the employees, they restrict the work output by themselves, it is called as soldiering. So Taylor attributed the decline in industrial production that was taking place in the United States to this phenomena of soldiering. So this is something he discovered, and he said that there are two kinds of soldiering. One is natural soldiering, and another is systematic soldiering. So natural soldiering and systematic soldiering, the two types of soldiering. Is where employees restrict the work output. They do not produce more. However, they restrict their output after a certain level. This has been termed as soldiering, and Taylor attributed soldiering, this decline in industrial output, to this phenomena called soldiering. And he defined two types of soldiering. He categorized soldiering into two types. The first type is natural soldiering. So natural soldiering is restricting of output due to inherent qualities of individuals like laziness, shyness, or incapability. So when the output is reduced due to inherent qualities of the individuals like laziness, shyness, and incapability, that may refer to natural soldiering. And according to Taylor, natural soldiering can be corrected by persuasion or even threat. So, by persuasion or by threat, natural soldiering can be corrected and industrial output can be increased. The second type of soldiering was reduction in the output done deliberately by the workers or the employees. So, in natural soldiering, the reduction of output was due to shyness, incapability, or laziness. But in systematic soldiering, the reduction in output is done deliberately by the workers or the employees. And the reason for this soldiering, he also identified certain reasons behind this phenomena of soldiering. The first reason he said was that incentives were paid to the workers for attendance rather than the work done. So the workers were given incentives not for the amount of work that they were doing, rather for their attendance. Hence, the workers were afraid of losing work if the productivity was higher and the work got completed earlier. So the workers thought that if they increased the productivity, then the work would be completed earlier. Hence, uh, they may lose work. So if they lose work, they may lose their wages as well. So that is why they worked slowly. Instead of completing a work quickly or before time, they deliberately worked slowly. So because they were afraid of losing work, and they were afraid that if the productivity was higher and the work got completed earlier, they would lose their work, and which would of course negatively affect their wages. So this is one of the reasons that Taylor attributed to the phenomena of soldiering, that one was incentives were paid to the workers for their attendance, not for their work done, and also the workers were afraid of losing work if they completed it early. Now, another reason that Taylor attributed for this phenomena of soldiering is initiative and incentive based management. Now, earlier, we are talking about the 19th century when Taylor wrote his works. The organizations were run in an unorganized and unscientific manner. So, earlier, before Taylor, or even during Taylor's time, the organizations in United States is where we are talking about, is where Taylor did his work. They were run in an unorganized and unscientific manner, and this unorganized and unregulated way was known as the rule of the thumb. So it was the rule of the thumb as per which organizations were run. Managers were lazy and did not take up their responsibilities seriously. So the managers, they were lazy and they did not take up their responsibilities like planning, directing seriously. And the laborers did the work for incentives, as I told you in the last a few minutes ago, that the laborers did their work for incentives, that is salaries, and had to take initiatives on their own. Hence, this was called initiative and incentive based management. So, the laborers did not get any initiative from their managers because they were lazy and they did not take up their responsibilities seriously. And it was all organized on the basis of the rule of the thumb. It was very unorganized and unscientific. We're talking about management in industries. Hence, the laborers had to take initiatives on their own, and this system that existed was called initiative and incentive based management. Taylor advocated that management should take up its responsibilities seriously. So Taylor was the first to advocate this, that management should take its responsibilities seriously. Now let us move on to the assumptions of scientific management. The functioning of an organization, according to Taylor, can be improved with the application of scientific methods. So Taylor considered, like we studied in the last class, Woodrow Wilson considered administration to be a science and different from political science, to be a different field, to be a different discipline, an autonomous discipline. That is what Woodrow Wilson said. We read it, we studied it in the last class. Similarly, Taylor also believed that administration is a science and the functioning of an organization can be improved with the application of scientific methods. So by these scientific methods, he meant the methods of motion study, the methods of time study. So all these motion study and time study he did to further improve work, and so that one work could be done in the least amount of time. That is why he used these methods of motion study and time study to find what Taylor called the one best way to do the work. So his goal, Frederick Winslow Taylor's goal, was to find one best way to do a work. So that is why he employed different methods, that is motion study, time study. So using these techniques, he wanted to find one best way to do a work and also to facilitate planning or daily techniques. So according to Taylor, a good worker is one who does not initiate action but accepts the orders of the management. So, according to Taylor, a good worker is not one who initiates action on his or her own, rather accepts the orders of the management. And every worker, according to Taylor, is an economic man and is motivated by monetary factors. So these were the assumptions of Taylor's scientific management. Now, moving on to our most important thing, that is the principles of scientific management. So, in the principles of scientific management, the first principle that Taylor gave is that development of a true science of work. So, Taylor tried to develop a true science of work, that is standardization of work methods. And according to Taylor, the management should define the goals, jobs, responsibilities, and every other aspect of the organization. Therefore, it should study and analyze the organization scientifically. So the management has to study and analyze the organization scientifically, and it is the responsibility, it is the duty of the management to define the goals, jobs, responsibilities, and every other aspect of an organization. Hence, Taylor calls for developing a true science of work or standardizing the work methods. And according to Taylor, if this scientific way is followed, if this scientific study is done, then it will result in one best way of doing a work. Now, the second principle that Taylor gave is that scientific selection, training, and development of workers. So Taylor emphasized on scientific selection, training, and development of workers. The workers should be selected and trained in a systematic and scientific manner. So Taylor advocated that workers should be selected and trained in a systematic and scientific manner. And hence he said that the right man for the right job, that is what he emphasized on. One best way of doing work, he emphasized in the first principle, that is standardization of work methods. And in the second principle, he emphasized on scientific selection, training, and development of workers. And he said that workers should be selected and trained in systematic and scientific manner. Hence, he called for right man for the right job. The management should ensure, according to Taylor, that workers adjust to the new methods willingly. So the new methods are not forced upon the workers, rather they should adjust to the new methods, that is the scientific methods, willingly. And further, Taylor said in his principles of scientific management that the bringing together of science of work and workers who are scientifically selected and trained. So he advocated bringing together science of work and workers who are scientifically selected and trained. And because according to Taylor, no organization can succeed if there is absence of harmony between the management and the workers. And scientific management, according to Taylor, involved a complete mental revolution on the part of the workers and the manager. So he called for mental revolution. This is his third principle, where he advocated that science of work and workers who are scientifically selected, they should be brought together and trained, and there should be a mental revolution of the workers and the managers. And mental revolution, according to Taylor, demanded that the interests of the workers and the managers, they should not be in opposition to each other. Rather, mutual prosperity is possible only through mutual cooperation. So Taylor emphasized on mutual cooperation, which according to him would ensure mutual prosperity. And also he said that there should be equal division of work and responsibility between the management and the workers. And the combination of the principles that we studied is called scientific management. And the philosophy, and if we summarize these principles, the first principle talks that about science and not rule of thumb should be the method of organizing an organization, should be the method of managing an organization. Science and not rule of thumb. This is what Taylor emphasized on. The second was harmony, not discord. So Taylor emphasized on creating harmony and not discord. Third, Taylor focused on cooperation and not individualism. Fourth, Taylor focused on maximum output in place of restricted output. So science, not rule of thumb, harmony, not discord, cooperation, not individualism, maximum output in place of restricted output, and finally, he said he focused on development of each to greatest level of efficiency and prosperity. So development of each worker and manager to greatest level of efficiency and prosperity. That is why he called for mental revolution. So these are the ideas of Frederick Winslow Taylor that we have studied, and in conclusion, we can say that Taylor, who is considered the father of scientific management, and his principles have enhanced the efficiency of many organizations, has increased the efficiency. However, his principles are also criticized for being too mechanistic and not focusing on psychological factors. And it is alleged that he has ignored the human dimension in the methods of work. And however, despite of these criticisms, his theory, his contribution is very significant to the working of any organization and to the increasing of organizational efficiency and output, because he aimed at rationalizing the working of organizations. So let us move on to our next thinker, that is Henry Fayol. Now, Henry Fayol, who is the next thinker that we are going to do as part of our block 2. So Henry Fayol is the next thinker that we are going to do. And Henry Fayol is connected with the administrative management theory. So Henry Fayol is related with the administrative management theory. In the block 2, we have so far done Woodrow Wilson and Frederick Winslow Taylor, scientific management. Moving on, we are going to do Henry Fayol, who is associated with the administrative management theory. This theory is also known as traditional theory, structural theory, formal organization theory, mechanistic theory, and management process school as well. So these are the different names of the same theory, that is administrative management theory. And this theory was given by March and Simon. However, the major contributors to this theory are Henry Fayol, Luther and Gulick. We have already studied Luther and Gulick when we a little bit when we were doing Kautilya. So the contributors to this administrative management theory are Henry Fayol, Luther Gulick, Lyndall Urwick, J.D. Mooney, A.C. Riley, Mary Parker Follett. And this administrative management theory, it focuses on formal organization structures as well as the process of administration. And it supports the concept of economic man. So it built upon this theory, the administrative management theory, it built upon Frederick Winslow Taylor's scientific management theory only. And in this administrative management theory, we are going to study the contribution made by Henry Fayol, who is considered one of the propounders towards this classical theory of organization or administrative management theory. And he worked towards devising a universal structure of organization. And his most important thing that we are going to study here is the 14 principles of management that he gave. So that we are going to understand here when we are going to study Henry Fayol. And so let's move and let's study Henry Fayol now. So Henry Fayol was associated with this administrative management theory. According to this theory, administration is administration irrespective of the nature or type of work. So Henry Fayol, he presupposes that administration is the same everywhere. So administration is administration irrespective of the nature or type of work. And certain fundamental principles, according to Henry Fayol, can help in increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of an organization, because administration is administration irrespective of the type of work. So no matter which work it is, administrative principles will always remain the same, because according to Henry Fayol, administration is the same everywhere. And hence there are certain fundamental principles that can help in increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of an organization. So no matter which type of organization it is, the same principles would apply. And no matter which country it is, whether it is the United States or whether it is the Russia or whether it is some developing country, the same principles would apply. Hence, Henry Fayol laid a lot of emphasis on formulating these principles. So he laid a lot of emphasis on formulating these principles that would apply everywhere, irrespective of the nature of job and irrespective of the place where it is being applied. So this is why Henry Fayol emphasized on formulating certain principles. And these principles would be universally valid, according to Henry Fayol, and can be applied to all kinds of organization, because administration is the same everywhere. Now moving on, if we see Henry Fayol, he was born in Istanbul in 1841, and he was a mining engineer, and he started his career in 1860 and ended up becoming a managing director by 1888, and he retired in 1918. And if we see his major contributions to the field of public administration, his first contribution was Administration Industrielle et Générale. So this was a French book that he wrote, which is also called General and Industrial Management, which was translated in 1929 to General and Industrial Management. This is his magnum opus. The second paper that he wrote is called The Theory of Administration in the State. So this he wrote in 1923. However, we get most of his ideas from his paper, that is General and Industrial Management, which he wrote in 1929. And in this book, he gave the managerial approach of management. The managerial approach, and hence he is also called the father of this managerial approach, or the management process school, which we are studying. And hence he is also described as the father of the classical theory, because he was the first thinker of this classical theory, or the administrative management theory, or the managerial schools. These are the different names for the same theory. It is also called the traditional theory as well. And so we are going to study three things about Henry Fayol here. The first is the activities of an industrial undertaking. The activities of an industrial undertaking. The second is elements of production, elements of administration. The third is principles of administration. So the first thing that we are going to study on Henry Fayol in this class is activities of an industrial undertaking. The second is elements of administration, and the third is principles of administration. So we are going to study Henry Fayol under three subheads. Activities of an industrial undertaking. So he categorized the different activities of any industrial undertaking. Secondly, he talked about the elements of administration. And thirdly, he talked about the principles of administration. And he divided his idea of managerial functions into 6 groups on the basis of industrial activities. The first he focused on technical activities. The second, he focused on commercial activities. The third, he focused on financial activities. Fourth, he focused on security activities, Henry Fayol. Fifth, he also focused on accounting activities in an industry, in an organization. And finally, he focused on managerial activities, where he came up with the essential elements which we are going to study here, the elements of administration or the elements of managerial activity. That is, he coined this acronym POCCC or POCCC. That is planning, organization, command, coordination, and control. So POCCC. These are, according to him, the elements of administration or elements of managerial activities and management. We are going to do it here. Now, let us first focus on the first thing that we are going to study about Fayol, that is the activities of an industrial undertaking. Now, according to Henry Fayol, we have already studied the activities of an industrial undertaking. The first is the technical activities. So he says that there are 6 activities of an industrial undertaking. The first is the technical activity, which I just told you. It is concerned with production, manufacturing, techniques, and technology. The second is commercial activities, which basically is concerned with buying, selling, and exchange. So the first was technical activity of an organization. We are talking about activities of an industrial undertaking or an organization, but here he's focusing on industrial undertaking only. So the first activity of an industrial undertaking is technical activity, which basically involves production, manufacturing, techniques, and technology. The second is commercial activities, which involves buying, selling, and exchange. The third is financial activities, which basically is concerned with optimum use of capital, how capital is used in an optimal way. The fourth is security activities, which basically is concerned with protection of persons and property. Next up, the fifth thing that he talks about, the fifth activity of an industrial undertaking that he talks about is accounting activity, which basically involves stock taking, balance sheets, cost, and statistics. So stock taking, balance sheet, cost, and statistics is what consists this accounting activity, which is the fifth activity of an industrial undertaking. And finally, as I told you, he talked about managerial or administrative activities, where he came up with this acronym, that is POCCC, which is planning, organization, command, coordination, and control. So these are the 6 activities of an industrial undertaking, according to Henry Fayol, who is also called the father of the classical theory of administration, and also known as the administrative theory school, which we are doing, administrative management theory. So moving on to the elements of administration. Now, the elements of administration, as we studied, the first element is planning, which he also called prevoyance or prevoir. And according to Fayol, it is the most effective instrument which helps in the growth of organizations. And according to him, a good action plan should be effective. In order for it to be effective, it should focus on unity, continuity, flexibility, and precision. So, the first element of an administration, according to Henry Fayol, is planning, which contributes to its growth. And a plan, in order for it to be effective, it should focus on unity, continuity, flexibility, and precision. Now, secondly, he talks about organization. And in organization, he emphasizes on building up the structure, both material and human. So organization should focus on building up the structure, material structure as well as human structure, and for which Henry Fayol says there is a need for formulation of a single authority. which will help to conduct activities in a coordinated manner with clarity and precision. So this is the second element of administration. The first was planning. The second is organization, which should emphasize on building up the structure, both material as well as human. The third element of administration, according to Henry Fayol, is commanding. Now, commanding involves directing the personnel who is under a manager, directing them, giving them direction. And that is why the Henry Fayol says that the manager who has been given the authority to give commands should have a thorough knowledge of the personnel who are working under him. Personnel refers to workers. So a manager should have thorough command and should have thorough knowledge of the personnel who are working under him and should be able to eliminate those who are incompetent. So why should he have a thorough knowledge of the personnel or the workers who are working under him? So that he is able to remove those workers who are incompetent. So this is the third element of administration, that is called commanding or directing the personnel. The fourth element of administration that Henry Fayol talks about is coordination. Now, through coordination, Henry Fayol says that there is a need to bring harmony in all activities and efforts of an organization. So he focuses on harmony and not discord. So he basically is building upon, you can say in a way, on Frederick Winslow Taylor's theory only. And so Taylor also talked about harmony and not discord. We studied it a little while ago. Similarly, here also Henry Fayol says that through coordination, the objective should be to bring harmony in all activities and efforts of an organization. Hence, he says that coordination is the fourth element of administration. And finally, he talks about the fifth element of administration, that is control. So planning, organization, commanding, coordination, and finally control. So POCCC. And through control, he says that the aim of control is to see that established rules and procedures are being followed. So the organization should also have a certain amount of control, not only on the workers, but also on the managers who are responsible for the organization. So the purpose of control is to see that established rules and procedures are being followed. So it also involves an element of accountability and answerability here as well. So the aim of control is to see that established rules and procedures are being followed, and there is some sort of a conformity. People are conforming to the plan and objective of the organization, which according to Fayol would help overcome weakness, and it should be conducted in a reasonable manner to ensure effectiveness. So these were the 5 elements of administration: planning, organization, commanding, coordination, and control. So moving on, let us now see the principles of administration that Henry Fayol gave. The 14 principles of administration. The first one is division of work or specialization. So he emphasized on division of work or specialization. The second principle of administration that Henry Fayol gave is authority and responsibility. So there are a total of 14 principles. We have so far studied about the elements of our organization, elements of an organization or elements of administration, as well as the activities of an industrial undertaking. So these are the 2 things we have studied. In activities of an industrial undertaking, if you see, we have studied the 6 kind of activities that Henry Fayol talked about. And after that, we studied about the 5 elements of administration that Henry Fayol discussed. And now we are going to doing the 14 principles also of administration that Henry Fayol specified in his works. The first one was the division of work. or specialization, which according to Henry Fayol is very important. The second is authority and responsibility. The third is discipline. In an organization, discipline is very important according to Henry Fayol. The fourth is that there should be a unity of command. So there should be a unity of command. There should not be disunity in that. And the second is unity of direction. So unity of command and unity of direction. So directions should come from one place and commands should come from one place. And commands should be the same. And there should not be confusion among the workers. So that is why he focuses on unity of command and unity of direction. Afterwards, he talks about subordination of individual interest to general interest. So individual interest should be subordinated to general interest. And if this is done, then only an organization can progress. The seventh principle of administration that Henry Fayol talks about is remuneration, which basically has to do with the salaries of the workers. The eighth principle is centralization. So he talks about he's not in favor of decentralized authority, rather Fayol is in favor of centralized authority, and he says that there should be, in any organization, there should be centralization. And there should also be a hierarchy in an organization, which he refers to as the scalar chain. This is the ninth principle. And next up, Henry Fayol talks about order, which is the 10th principle of an organization. Order, followed by equity. Order and equity. So by equity, we mean that those who are a little weak in an organization, they should be given special care than those who are a little strong. So that is equity, which is the 11th principle. Order was the 10th principle. And the 12th principle is stability of tenure of the workers. So the workers should not always be insecure, and hence they should have a stability of tenure. And the 13th principle is initiative. And he says that not only the managers should take initiatives, but the workers should also take initiatives. And the final, or the 14th principle of administration that Fayol talks about is esprit de corps, which basically refers to team spirit. So esprit de corps is team spirit, which is the 14th principle which Henry Fayol talks about. So finally, we have studied these three things under Henry Fayol, that is the activities of an industrial undertaking, the elements of administration, and finally the principles of administration. And in concluding Henry Fayol, we can say that he tried to design a rational system of organization where the primary objective was the fulfillment of the basic objectives of the organization. And that is why we can say that his focus was on improving the overall administration by observing certain principles. And his approach was a very pragmatic one towards administration and organization. And he was the first person, you can say, to provide a systematic theory of administration. Hence, he is called the father of the administrative management school, or the classical theory of administration. So we have so far studied in this block 2, we have studied Woodrow Wilson, we have studied Frederick Winslow Taylor and Henry Fayol. Now the next thinker that we are going to study, that we are going to begin today, that is Max Weber. We are going to begin with Max Weber. Now Max Weber is mostly concerned with the concept of bureaucracy. And when we talk about Max Weber, we will focus on bureaucracy. Now this term bureaucracy, it was coined by Vincent de Gournay. Now Vincent de Gournay was a French economist who was born in 1745. He is the one who coined this term. Now whenever we talk about bureaucracy, what comes to our mind is the IAS officers, the IPS officers, the IFS officers. So bureaucracy in our country is at the central level, it is at the state level. However, if we see the origin of bureaucracy, we have to go back, especially in the modern era. We are not talking about the ancient era. Of course, bureaucracy was there in the ancient era as well. We read it in Kautilya when we were doing. However, our emphasis is on the modern era. And bureaucracy, the theory of bureaucracy, that is what we are concerned with here. So, this term in the modern era, the bureaucracy term that is now used in every country, it was coined by Vincent de Gournay, who was a French economist. He coined this term in 1745. And bureau, it means desk. So, bureau means desk in French. And the writings on bureaucracy, they came from Karl Marx, Max Weber, Robert Michels, Gaetano Mosca. So these were some of the thinkers who wrote on bureaucracy. And Karl Marx, Max Weber, Robert Michels, and Gaetano Mosca, these were some thinkers who wrote on bureaucracy. However, we are going to study Max Weber in this paper, because Max Weber was the first person who began systematic study of bureaucracy. So Max Weber was the first person to systematically study bureaucracy. So that is why our emphasis would be on Max Weber. Now, Max Weber, also known as Maximilian Karl Emil Weber, he was a German sociologist and political economist. Max Weber, a German sociologist and political economist. He was born in 1864, and he studied law from the University of Heidelberg, and he also was there in the German army as well. And later on, he became an instructor of law and a professor of political economy. So we are going to emphasize on his theory of bureaucracy here, and some of his major works from which we get his ideas on bureaucracy are The Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism. The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism by Max Weber is one of his most important work. We can call it his magnum opus. The second book that he wrote is called Economy and Society. The first one is Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. The second is Economy and Society. And the third is The Theory of Social and Economic Organization. So from these three books, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, Economy and Society, and The Theory of Social and Economic Organization, we get the ideas of Max Weber, which we are going to do here. Now, if we see at the definition of bureaucracy that Max Weber gave, according to him, bureaucracy is a system for controlling or managing any organization. It may be a country or it may be a company, by a large number of officials employed to follow rules. So, a system for controlling or managing any organization by a large number of officials employed to follow rules. Weber did not define bureaucracy specifically, he only described its characteristics. And according to him, bureaucracy is an administrative body of appointed officials. Now, Weber talks about one phenomena that existed in bureaucracy during his time, which he did not like. That was the phenomena of particularism. Now, what did he mean by particularism? In particularism that existed, employees were hired on the basis of family relations or connections. They were not hired on the basis of merit, rather on the basis of family relations and connections. This is what Weber described as particularism, and he said that there was a lot of favoritism also that was there. So particularism and favoritism, these were the two things that dominated bureaucracy during Weber's time. We are talking about the late 19th century, the 1880s and the 1890s, and so this was the time period when Weber was there in West Germany, which was of course, called Prussia at that time. And employees were hired on the basis of family relations or connections. And there was a lot of favoritism that was there. It was rampant. Hence, Weber wanted a more rational approach. Weber emphasized on a rational approach towards bureaucracy. Now, in Weber's concept of bureaucracy, we are going to study the difference between power and authority, the components of authority, the types of authority. So, the difference between power and authority, the components of authority, the types of authority, the characteristics of bureaucracy, the reasons for emergence of bureaucracy, and control over bureaucracy. So, these are the things we are going to study. So, let's begin. Now, Weber talked about the difference between power and authority. Power, according to Weber, is the probability that one actor within a social relationship will be in a position to carry out his own will despite resistance. So, Weber differentiated between power and authority, and he said that power is the probability that one actor within a social relationship will be in a position to carry out his own will despite resistance. However, authority, according to Max Weber, is the probability that a command with a given specific content will be obeyed by a group of persons. So, authority has to do with the probability of obedience. How much is the probability that a certain command or a certain order will be obeyed by a group of persons? So, power is only concerned with the probability that one actor within a social relationship will be in a position to carry out his own will despite resistance. However, authority is concerned with obedience or acceptance of that will or that command. So that is why Weber said that legitimacy turns power into authority. So he says that legitimacy is what turns power into authority, and according to Weber, all administration means domination. So all administration is concerned with domination, and according to Weber, domination is the exercise of authority, because all administration means domination. Hence, domination is the exercise of authority. Now, if we look at the components of authority that Max Weber gave, the components of authority, according to him, the components of authority by Max Weber, the first is an individual or a body of individuals who rule. So, in an authority, there should be an individual or a body of individuals who are going to rule. The second component of authority, according to Max Weber, is an individual or a body of individuals who are ruled. So, the first was an individual or a body of individuals who will rule, and the second is an individual or a body of individuals who are ruled. So there is a ruler and there is a ruled. The third is that the will of the rulers to influence the conduct of the rule and the expression of that will or command. So the will of the rulers to influence the conduct of those who are being ruled, and also the expression of the will or command, how that command of the rulers is being expressed. So this is the third component. The fourth component is evidence of influence of the rulers in terms of objective degree of the command. So there should be certain evidence of the influence of the rulers on those whom they are ruling, and that is in terms of objective degree of the command. So this is the fourth component of authority. The fifth component is direct or indirect evidence of that influence in terms of the subjective acceptance with which the ruled obey the command. So the direct or indirect evidence of the influence of the rulers on the ruled, and also the subjective acceptance. So the concept of acceptance of the rules, that is also here by Max Weber. And as we said, we are going to study the types of authority. The first type of authority that Max Weber talked about is traditional authority. So he said that there are three types of authority. First is traditional authority, second is charismatic authority, and third is rational legal authority. So in by traditional authority, Max Weber refers to those kind of authorities which are based on traditions, customs, conventions, and inherent status. So those which are inherited, they are not created. Traditional authority is not on the basis of merit, but they are inherited. They are based on certain traditions, on certain customs. So the authority that is exercised by a king or by a religious leader, they would fall under this traditional authority. And here there is a form of feudalism. There's a form of patrimonialism that Weber talks about. And in this authority, the person wielding the authority are not that answerable to those on whom they are wielding it. The second type of authority is charismatic authority, which is based on charisma or the quality of an individual's personality. Okay, so charismatic authority is based on extraordinary and exceptional individual qualities, and also it is the personal devotion of the ruled towards the rulers. That is what we observe. So it is on the basis of charisma, individual charisma. So we can say Gandhiji, he wielded a lot of charismatic authority. So his charisma, it drew people towards him. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he also in India's case wielded charismatic authority. If we talk about United States, Abraham Lincoln, he wielded, or George Washington, they had charismatic authority. If you see the likes of Napoleon, they had charismatic authority. So on the basis of their individual charisma, people followed them. So here also there is the answerability or accountability is very less. However, the type of authority that Weber prefers is rational legal authority or legal rational authority, which is based on legality or which is based on rules, codified rules, and which is also rational as well. So this is the kind of authority that Weber prefers. And in this kind of authority, authority does not reside in an individual, rather it resides in an office or in a position. And that office has certain codified rules or certain laws which are rational. They are not irrational or arbitrary. So this is the kind of authority that Max Weber prefers, legal rational authority. So we are going to stop here as far as Max Weber is concerned, and we are going to revise a little bit what we have studied. So in this class, we have studied Frederick Winslow Taylor and his concept of scientific management, where we talked about his theory of we have studied Frederick Winslow Taylor, scientific management, where we talked about his theory of scientific management, also the different techniques he used to bring about this theory, and also we talked about soldiering and mental revolution. So these are the important things that we talked about here. Next up, we discussed Henry Fayol. In Henry Fayol, we discussed the activities of an industrial undertaking, the elements of administration. We have discussed the 6 activities of an industrial undertaking, the 5 elements of administration, and then we discussed the 14 principles of administration. And then we have just started discussing Max Weber. We discussed the components of administration, and we have also discussed the types of authority that Max Weber prescribed. We have discussed the difference between power and authority. We have discussed the meaning of bureaucracy. We have discussed the components of authority, and we have discussed the types of authority, the 3 types of authority, that is traditional, charismatic, and rational legal authority. And we are going to continue with the characteristics of bureaucracy and the reasons for emergence of bureaucracy. In the next class, we are going to do that. We are going to do about the characteristics of bureaucracy and the reasons for the emergence of bureaucracy, as well as control over bureaucracy. So in the next class, we are going to focus on bureaucracy.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
భారతదేశంలో సాంఘిక, ఆర్థిక, రాజకీయ, సామాజిక అసమానతలు ఏ విధంగా ఉన్నవి, వివక్షత ఏ విధంగా ఉంది, ఆర్థిక అసమానతలు, ప్రాంతీయ అసమానతలు సమాజం పైన ఎటువంటి దుష్ప్రభావాన్ని చూపిస్తున్నాయి అనేటువంటి అంశాలను ఈరోజు డిస్కస్ చేద్దాం. సమానత్వం, ఈక్వాలిటీ. మరి ఈ సమానత్వం అనేటువంటిది సాధారణంగా ఒక ఆర్థిక పరమైనటువంటి అంశమేనా అంటే మరి ఒక ఆర్థిక పరమైనటువంటి అంశం కాదు ఇది. ఆర్థిక, సాంఘిక, రాజకీయ, సామాజిక, సాంస్కృతిక పరమైనటువంటి అన్నింటిలో కూడా మరి వృత్తి ఫలాలు సమానంగా పంపిణీ కావడం, మరి కుల, మత, లింగ వివక్షత లేకుండా అన్ని సామాజిక వర్గాలకి సమానమైనటువంటి అవకాశాలు అందించడం సమానత్వానికి నాంది ఉంటుంది. సాధారణంగా మనలాంటి అభివృద్ధి చెందుతున్నటువంటి దేశాలలో ఇవి చాలా పురుడు పోసుకొని ఈ వివక్షలు కావచ్చు, ఈ అసమానతలు కావచ్చు, మరి పురుడు పోసుకొని ఇవి ఒక మహావృక్షంలాగా తయారైనటువంటి సందర్భాన్ని మనం చూస్తూ ఉన్నాం. నాట్ ఓన్లీ ఇన్ ఇండియా, దాదాపుగా అభివృద్ధి చెందుతున్నటువంటి దేశాలు కానీ, మూడవ ప్రపంచ దేశాలు కానీ, ఈ దేశాలలో ముఖ్యంగా ఇప్పుడు మనం చెప్పుకున్నటువంటి అసమానతలు మరి ఒక రకంగా చెప్పాలంటే ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థలో విలయ తాండవం చేస్తూ ఉన్నారు. మరి ఎందుకు ఇంతటి వివక్ష, ఇంతటి అసమానతలు ఈ విధంగా పెరుగుతూ రావడానికి గల కారణాలు ఏంటి? మరి వీటిని రూపుమాపాలి అంటే ప్రభుత్వాలు తీసుకోవాల్సినటువంటి చర్యలు ఏంటి? మరి ఇలానే వాటిని ఇంకా కంటిన్యూ చేద్దామా? వాటిని ఇంకా నిరాటంకంగా కొనసాగించడమేనా? మరి ప్రభుత్వాలు ఎందుకు విఫలమవుతున్నాయి, ఎందుకు వైఫల్యం చెందుతున్నాయి? దాదాపుగా భారతదేశానికి స్వాతంత్రం వచ్చి 75 సంవత్సరాలు పూర్తి చేసుకున్నటువంటి సందర్భంలో ఇప్పటికీ కూడా ఇంకా ఈ అసమానతలకి చోటు ఎందుకు ఉంది అనేటువంటి ఒక దృక్పథం, ఒక పరిశోధన చాలా అనివార్యం, క్లిష్టమైనది ఈ సమయంలో. అంటే ఎందుకోసం ఇక్కడ అంటే భారతదేశంలో మరి వివక్షతలను పెంచి పోషిస్తున్నది ఎవరు అసలు? ఎందుకు ఇలా కుల ప్రాతిపదికన, మత ప్రాతిపదికన ఇక్కడ సమాజాన్ని ముక్కలుగా విడగొట్టడానికి అసలు మూల కారణం ఎవరు అంటే వాస్తవానికి వెనుకబాటుతనాన్ని ప్రతిబింబించేటువంటి వాళ్ళ యొక్క ఒక దిక్సూచిని ఈరోజు ఆసరిగా చేసుకొని ఈరోజు దానికి పెంచి పోషించేటువంటి అంటే సాధారణంగా రాజకీయ నాయకులు ఇటువంటి అసమానతల్ని కూకటి వేళ్లతోటి సమాజం నుండి పెకిలించి వేయాలి, తీసివేయాలి. కానీ అలా కాదు, అవి మహావృక్షమై ఇంతింతై వటుడింతై అన్నట్టుగా వాటిని ఇంకా పెంచి పోషిస్తున్నటువంటి సందర్భం మనం చూస్తున్నాం. భారతదేశం లోపల ఏ రాష్ట్రంలోకి వెళ్ళినా అనగారినటువంటి పేద ప్రజలు, బిలో పావర్టీ లైన్కి, పేదరికపు రేఖకి దిగువన ఉన్నటువంటి ప్రజలు మరి సమాన అవకాశాలు పొందలేకపోతున్నారు. విద్య, వైద్యం, ప్రజారోగ్యం, ఆరోగ్యం, పారిశుద్ధ్యం, గృహవసతి, త్రాగునీరు వీటన్నింటిలో కూడా వీళ్ళు మూడవ కేటగిరీ పీపుల్ లాగా ఇంకా నివసించవలసినటువంటి దుస్థితి ఉంది. అంటే వాస్తవానికి ఇక్కడ రాజకీయ నాయకులు కూడా ఇటువంటి ఈ వెనుకబడినటువంటి ఆర్థికంగా, సామాజికంగా, రాజకీయంగా వెనుకబడినటువంటి జన సమూహాన్ని లేదా కుల ప్రాతిపదికన వాళ్ళని ముక్కలు ముక్కలుగా చేసి వాళ్ళ యొక్క 5 సంవత్సరాల కాలానికి సరిపోయే విధంగా ఒక ఓటు బ్యాంకుగా వాళ్ళని మలుచుకొని వాళ్ళు రాజ్యం చేస్తున్నారు అనేటువంటి సందర్భం కూడా చెప్పుకోక తప్పదు. ఖచ్చితంగా ఇది బలమైనటువంటి కారణమే. అంటే ప్రజల లోపల చైతన్యం రావాలి. ఈ చైతన్యం అన్నది వాళ్ళని ఆర్థికంగా, రాజకీయంగా, సామాజికంగా, సాంస్కృతిక పరంగా వాళ్ళ యొక్క ఎదుగుదలకి దోహదపడుతుంది. కానీ ఆ చైతన్యం రావాలి అంటే వాళ్ళకి ఏం కావాలి అంటే 3 పూటల తిండి కావాలి. ఆ తర్వాత వాళ్ళకు సమానమైనటువంటి విద్యా అవకాశాలు కావాలి. ఈరోజు ఒక్కొక్క రాష్ట్రం ఒక్కొక్క విధంగా విద్యని వ్యాపారం చేసి మరి ఏ విధంగా విద్యని ప్రైవేటు యజమాన్యంలోకి నెట్టివేసి మరి అణగారినటువంటి ప్రజలకు మరి ఎవరైతే వెనుకబడినటువంటి బీసీ, ఎస్సీ, ఎస్టీ ప్రజలు ఉన్నారో వారికి అందరి ద్రాక్షలాగా ఈరోజు మరి విద్యని అతి దూరం చేస్తున్నాయా? ఇది కావాలని జరుగుతుందా, అనుకోకుండానే జరుగుతుందా అనేటువంటి సందర్భం, ఒక ప్రశ్న కూడా మనల్ని వెంటాడుతుంది. కానీ ఇది చాలా క్లియర్గా మనం చెప్పొచ్చు. ఎందుకు చాలా క్లియర్గా చెప్పొచ్చు అంటే వాస్తవానికి ఎక్కడనైతే సమస్య ఉంటుందో అక్కడ దాన్ని తుంచివేయడానికి పాలసీ మేకింగ్, పాలసీ డిజైనింగ్ ఉండాలి. కానీ ఈరోజు మరి స్వాతంత్రం వచ్చి ఇప్పటికీ ఇన్ని దశాబ్దాలు, 6 దశాబ్దాలు పూర్తి చేసుకున్నప్పటికీ కూడా మనం ఇంకా 20% జనాభా పేదరికపు రేఖకు దిగువన జీవిస్తున్నారు, నివసిస్తున్నారు. అంటే 20% జనాభా అంటే అటు ఇటుగా 140 కోట్ల జనాభాలో అటు ఇటుగా 30 కోట్ల జనాభా ఇంకా దే ఆర్ ఫైట్ ఫర్ బేసిక్ నీడ్స్, దే ఆర్ స్ట్రగుల్ ఫర్ బేసిక్ నీడ్స్. అంటే కూడు, గుడ్డ, ఫుడ్, క్లాత్, షెల్టర్ వీటి కోసం ఇంకా నిరంతరంగా పోరాటం చేస్తూనే ఉన్నారు, జరుగుతూనే ఉంది. ఎంతకాలం వారు అయితే వీటి కోసం, ఈ కనీస అవసరాల కోసం వాళ్ళు తాపత్రయపడుతూ ఉంటారో, వాళ్ళు ఇబ్బంది పడుతూ ఉంటారో, అదే సమయంలో, అదే సందర్భంలో వాళ్ళు వారికి కావలసినటువంటి ముఖ్యమైనటువంటి ప్రాథమికమైనటువంటి అంశాలపైన, సమాజంలో వస్తున్నటువంటి మార్పులపైన వాళ్ళు అవగాహన కలిగి ఉండడానికి అవకాశం లేదు, చైతన్యం నిండడానికి అవకాశం లేదు. వాళ్ళ లోపల, వాళ్ళ ఆలోచన ధోరణి లోపల మార్పు రావడానికి అవకాశం లేదు. ఇది రాజకీయ నాయకులకి ఒక వరంలాగా పనిచేస్తుంది, ఒక అద్భుతంలాగా పనిచేస్తుంది. కాబట్టి నిన్నలాగానే ఉండాలి, నేడులాగానే ఉండాలి అనేది మరి రాజకీయ నాయకులు మనం చూస్తున్నాం. చాలా రాష్ట్రాలలో కూడా ఉచితాల పేరుతోటి కూడా ప్రజలను ఏ విధంగా, ఇవన్నీ తెలుసు రాజకీయ నాయకులకి. ఒక ప్రాథమికంగా ఉచిత విద్య, ఉచిత వైద్యం, ఉచిత ఆరోగ్యం, ఉచిత పారిశుద్ధ్యం కనుక అందించినట్లయితే, మంచి వాతావరణాన్ని కనుక కల్పించినట్లయితే వాళ్ళు కొంచెం వాళ్ళ యొక్క ఆలోచన విధానంలో కూడా మార్పు వస్తుంది, వాళ్ళ యొక్క సామాజిక దృక్పథంలో కూడా మార్పు వస్తుంది, వారి యొక్క ఆర్థిక జీవన విధానంలో కూడా మార్పు వస్తుంది. వీటన్నింటిలో మార్పు వచ్చినట్లయితే రాజకీయ దృక్పథంలో కూడా మార్పు వస్తుంది. అంటే వాళ్ళ యొక్క ఆలోచన విధానాన్ని ఇంకా పదును పెడతారు. మరి ఎందుకు ఈ విధంగా అసమానతలు ఉన్నవి? మరి మనలాంటి దేశంలో ఇంత కఠినమైనటువంటి వ్యవస్థను మనం చూస్తున్నాం, మాట్లాడుతున్నాం, చదువుతున్నాం, చెప్తూ ఉన్నాం. కారణం ఏంటి అంటే ఇక్కడ పెరుగుతున్నటువంటి జనాభాకి సమానంగా అవకాశాలు లేకపోవడం. మరి ఇక్కడ జనాభాని నియంత్రించగలిగేటువంటి సందర్భంలో అనేకమైనటువంటి ఆటంకాలు ఎదుర్కోవడం, ఇతర దేశాల నుండి మరి వలసలు రావడం, మైగ్రేషన్ పేరుతోటి మరి ఇతర దేశాల నుండి ఇక్కడికి అనేక దేశాల నుండి ఇక్కడికి పేదవారు వచ్చి వాళ్ళు స్థిర నివాసాలు ఏర్పాటు చేసుకోవడం, ఇది ప్రభుత్వాలపైన అదనంగా భారంగా మారడం. ఇకపోతే పేదరికం అన్నది ఎక్కువగా ఉండడం, నిరుద్యోగం ఎక్కువగా ఉండడం, ఆ తర్వాత మరి శ్రామిక శక్తి పెరగడం, జనాభా పెరగడం, అవకాశాల కల్పన లోపట, అవకాశాలను అందించుకుంచడం లోపట మరి అనేకమైనటువంటి లోటుపాట్లు ఉండడం మనం చూస్తుంటాం. మన లాంటి దేశాల్లో ముఖ్యంగా ఇవన్నీ కూడా ముఖ్యమైనటువంటి కారణాలే. కాబట్టి ఈ కారణాలను ఛేదించినట్లయితేనే, మరి ఈ కారణాలను ఛేదించాలంటే ఏం చేయాలి? ఎక్కడనైతే సమస్య ఉందో ఆ సమస్యని చాలా క్లియర్‌గా, చాలా స్పష్టత కలిగి ఉండి, దానిపైన చాలా ఒక రకమైనటువంటి ఒక స్మూత్ కండక్ట్ డిసిషన్స్ రావాలి. కానీ అలా రావడానికి అసలు సాధ్యాలు లేవు. మన దేశంలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఈ ముఖ్యంగా కొన్ని రాష్ట్రాలలో ఇంకా రాజకీయ నాయకులు వారి యొక్క ఓటు బ్యాంక్ లాగానే ఈ పేదరికపు రేఖ ఉద్భవన ఉన్నటువంటి జనాభాని చూస్తూ ఉండడం వలన ఇంకా ఈ అసమానతలు పెరుగుతున్నాయి తప్ప తగ్గడం లేదు. ద్రవ్యోల్బణం కూడా ఒక ముఖ్య కారణమే. ద్రవ్యోల్బణం వలన వారి యొక్క జీవన ప్రమాణ స్థాయి తగ్గిపోవడం, వాళ్ళ పొదుపు శక్తి తగ్గిపోవడం, వాళ్ళ వినియోగ స్థాయి పెరగడం, వాళ్ళ ఆదాయ స్థాయి తగ్గిపోవడం, వాళ్ళ యొక్క ఆదాయ స్థాయిని మించినటువంటి ఖర్చులు రావడం, వ్యయం పెరగడం, ఇది ఇంకా పేదవారిని మరింత పేదవారిగా మార్చేటువంటి సందర్భం. మరి అలా మార్చడం అన్నది ఎంత దురదృష్టకరం, ఎంత క్లిష్టతరమైనటువంటిది. అంటే సామాజికంగా, ఆర్థికంగా చైతన్యం నింపవలసిందిగా ప్రభుత్వాలు, నింపేందుకు కృషి చేయాల్సినటువంటి ప్రభుత్వాలు ఈరోజు మరి ఒక ప్రేక్షక పాత్ర వహిస్తున్నాయి. అంతేకాకుండా ఇంకా చిన్న చిన్న కులంతో, మతంతో ఇంకా ఎన్ని రకాలుగా విభజించాలో అన్ని రకాలుగా ప్రజలని చిన్న చిన్న గ్రూపులుగా, వర్గాలుగా, ప్రాంతాలుగా వర్గీకరిస్తూ ముక్కలుగా వాళ్ళని విడగొడుతూ విడివిడిగా వాళ్ళని ఒక యూనిటీ, ఒక సమిష్టి నిర్ణయం, ఒక జాగరూకత తీసుకురాకుండా జాగ్రత్త పడుతున్నాయి అని చెప్పడంలో ఎలాంటి సందేహం లేదు. మరి ఇలానే పోతే ఏమవుతుంది అంటే ఇంకా భవిష్యత్తులో ఈ సమస్య అన్నది ఇంకా అతిపెద్ద మహావృక్షంగా మారేటువంటి ప్రమాదమే ఉంది తప్ప ఇది తగ్గిపోయేటువంటి అవకాశమే లేదు. కాబట్టి ప్రతి పౌరునికి కూడా కావలసినటువంటి విద్య, వైద్యం, ఆరోగ్యం, పారిశుద్ధ్యం, మంచి వాతావరణం, పర్యావరణం, ఇది త్రాగునీరు, అంటే స్వచ్ఛమైనటువంటి ఇవన్నీ కూడా అందించడం వలన, స్వచ్ఛందంగా ప్రభుత్వాలు అందించడం వలన ఆయా వెనుకబడినటువంటి వర్గ ప్రజలకి కుల, మత ప్రాతిపాదిక లేకుండా అన్ని వర్గాల ప్రజలకు, అన్ని ప్రాంతాల ప్రజలకు ఎప్పుడైతే ఇక్కడ ఈ కుల ప్రాతిపాదికన, మనం లాస్ట్ క్లాస్లో కూడా ఒక మాట మాట్లాడుకున్నాం. అంటే కుల ప్రాతిపాదికన రిజర్వేషన్స్, మత ప్రాతిపాదికన రిజర్వేషన్స్ కాకుండా ఆర్థిక ప్రతిపాదికన రావాలి రిజర్వేషన్స్ అని మనం ఒక మాట చెప్పుకున్నాం. అంటే ఒక సూచన ప్రాయంగా మనం మాట్లాడుకున్నాం. అదే సూచన చాలా బలంగా ఇక్కడ కూడా పనిచేస్తుంది. ఎందుకోసం అంటే ఒక వెనుకబడినటువంటి కమ్యూనిటీ నుండి, క్యాస్ట్ నుండి ఒక ఫ్యామిలీ ఒక్కసారి రిజర్వేషన్స్ని అందిపుచ్చుకొని ఎదిగింది అంటే ఇంకా ఆ కుటుంబము ఎప్పటికీ రిజర్వేషన్లని సంపూర్ణంగా, పరిపూర్ణంగా వాటిని వినియోగించుకొని అది ఆ ఫ్యామిలీ వరకు చాలా సఫలీకృతం అవుతుంది. కానీ ఎక్కడనైతే అదే కమ్యూనిటీలో, అదే ప్రాంతంలో ఎక్కడనైతే వెనుకబాటుతనం ఉందో, విద్య లేదో, విద్యా అవకాశాలు లేవో, వెనుకబడి ఉన్నారో, సామాజికంగా, ఆర్థికంగా, రాజకీయంగా చైతన్యం మరి మరుగున పడి ఉందో, అటువంటి ప్రజలకు ఎప్పటికీ అలానే ఉంటున్నారు. ఇక వాళ్ళకి అసలు రిజర్వేషన్స్ తోటి అవసరమే లేకుండా పోతుంది. వాళ్ళకి రిజర్వేషన్ యొక్క ఆవశ్యకతనే తెలియకుండా పోతుంది. ఇది చాలా భావితరాలకు, భావి భారత దేశానికి, భావి భారతానికి ఇది ఒక ప్రమాద గంటికనే అని చెప్పవచ్చు. అంటే ఇటువంటి ముఖ్యమైనటువంటి అంశాల వలన, ఇటువంటి ముఖ్యమైనటువంటి కారణాల వలన మరి దేశ ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థకి, దేశ ఆర్థిక పురోగతికి, దేశ ఆర్థిక భవిష్యత్తుకి ఒక పెద్ద ఆటంకంగా మారేటువంటి ప్రమాదం ఉంది. అంటే సమానమైనటువంటి వృత్తి ఫలాలు అన్ని రంగాలలో, అన్ని వర్గాలలో, అన్ని ప్రాంతాలలో సమానమైనటువంటి వర్గ ఫలాలు అందించేటువంటి సూచనప్రాయంగా మరి జరగాలి. కానీ ఈరోజు జరుగుతుందా అంటే అసలు ఆ సాధ్యాలే లేవు అని మనం చూస్తున్నాం. అంతేకాదు ఈరోజు ప్రతి వ్యవస్థను కూడా, వివిధ రాష్ట్రాలలో ప్రతి వ్యవస్థను కూడా ప్రజా సంక్షేమం కోసం, ప్రజల చైతన్యం కోసం పనిచేసేటువంటి ప్రతి వ్యవస్థని కూడా ఈరోజు ప్రభుత్వాలు వాటి యొక్క కన్సర్న్లో పెట్టుకొని, వాటి యొక్క గుప్పిట్లో పెట్టుకొని రాజ్యం చేస్తున్నాయి. దీని ద్వారా విద్యా అవకాశాలు సమానంగా అందకపోవటం, వైద్య అవకాశాలు సమానంగా అందకపోవటం, ఆరోగ్యం, పారిశుద్ధ్యం, త్రాగునీరు, సాగునీరు, ఒక అందమైనటువంటి వాతావరణాన్ని వాళ్ళు వినియోగించుకోలేకపోతున్నారు. మరి ఇవన్నీ ఎవరు వినియోగించుకుంటున్నారు అంటే ఎక్కడనైతే ఇక్కడ ఇన్ని రకాలుగా మనం మాట్లాడుకున్నాం, ఇన్ని రకాల కుటుంబాల నుండి వచ్చినటువంటి, వర్గాల నుండి వచ్చినటువంటి, కులాల నుండి వచ్చినటువంటి, ప్రాంతాల నుండి వచ్చినటువంటి ఆర్థికంగా ఔన్నత్యం, ఆర్థికంగా పటిష్టమైనటువంటి కుటుంబాలు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో ఈ ఫలాలని అవి మాత్రమే అందిపుచ్చుకుంటున్నాయి. వాళ్ళు మాత్రమే ఇంకా వారి యొక్క తరం ఇలా తరాలు మారుతూ మరి రిజర్వేషన్స్ ని అందుకుంటున్నారు. కానీ అదే సామాజిక వర్గానికి, అదే ప్రాంతానికి చెందినటువంటి బడుగు, బలహీన, వెనుకబడినటువంటి ప్రజలు మాత్రము ఎక్కడ వేసిన గొంగడి అక్కడేలా కానీ వాళ్ళు ఇంకా వెనుకబాటుతనంలోనే ఉన్నారు. ఇది సమాజాన్ని ఏదో ఒక స్థాయిలో రెండు రకాలుగా విడగొడుతుంది. ఒకటి ధనిక వర్గం అని, ఒకటి పేద వర్గం అని. కానీ వాస్తవానికి ప్రభుత్వాలు ప్రజా సంక్షేమ దృష్ట్యా బలహీన వర్గాల మరి ఎక్కడనైతే బిలో పావర్టీ లైన్, ఎక్కడనైతే పేదరిక రేఖకు దిగున ఉన్నారో వారి యొక్క ఆర్థిక స్థితిగతులను మెరుగుపరచడం కోసం మరి ఖర్చు చేస్తున్నాయా, చేయట్లేదా అంటే చేస్తున్నాయి. ఈ ఖర్చు చేసేటువంటి సందర్భంలో ఇక్కడ మళ్ళా దళారీ వ్యవస్థ బలపడటం. అంటే ఎందుకోసం దళారీ వ్యవస్థ బలపడుతుంది అంటే విద్యా అవకాశాలు సమానంగా లేకపోవటం, విద్యా రంగం లోపల వెనుకబడినటువంటి వాళ్ళు ఎక్కువగా ఉండటం, ప్రశ్నించేటువంటి తత్వం లేకపోవటం. అంటే ఎక్కడనైతే విద్య అన్నది ప్రశ్నించేటువంటి తత్వాన్ని నేర్పిస్తుంది, ఇటు రాజకీయ నాయకులని కావచ్చు, అటు దళారులను కావచ్చు, ఇటు అధికార వర్గాన్ని, యంత్రాంగాన్ని కావచ్చు. కానీ అసలు విద్యనే లేకపోతే ప్రశ్న అనేది ఉండదు. దెర్ ఇస్ నో క్వశ్చనింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ poor section of the society. But unfortunately, ప్రభుత్వాలు కూడా ఎంతకాలం అవి చేస్తున్నటువంటి ఫలితాలు లేదా పథకాలు లేదా ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ వీటి కోసం చేసేటువంటి ఖర్చుని వీటి కోసం చేసేటువంటి వ్యయాన్ని అవి ఏ విధంగా అంటే అవి ఒక ఆడంబరంగా మళ్ళీ తిరిగి ఇలా చేస్తున్నాం ఇలా అని చూపించడానికి అవి అదనంగా కొంత వ్యయం చేస్తున్నాం. అంటే ఇక్కడ మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవాల్సింది ఏంటి అంటే ప్రజా అవసరాల దృష్ట్యా ఒక సామాజిక బాధ్యతగా నిర్మాణాత్మకంగా తీసుకోవాల్సినటువంటి నిర్ణయాలని కూడా ఈరోజు ఒక పబ్లిసిటీ కావాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం వస్తుంది. మరి ఈ పబ్లిసిటీకి కూడా పెద్ద ఎత్తునే ఖర్చు పెట్టవలసినటువంటి సందర్భం వస్తుంది. కాబట్టి ఇది ప్రభుత్వాలపైన అదనంగా కొంత భారం పడుతుంది. ఇది ఇంతింత ఈ అదనంగా ఈ ఆడంబరం కోసం ప్రభుత్వాలు చేసేటువంటి ఖర్చు కూడా ఇంతింతై అంతింతై వటుడింతై అన్నట్టుగా ఇది కూడా దాదాపుగా కొన్ని వందల కోట్ల రూపాయలకి పెరిగిపోవడం ఈరోజు ప్రతి రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వం కూడా దాదాపుగా ఈ మాయలోనే ఈ ఊబిలోనే ఉంది అని చెప్పొచ్చు. దీని ద్వారా ఎక్కడనైతే ఆర్థికంగా, సామాజికంగా, రాజకీయంగా, సాంస్కృతిక పరంగా ఎక్కడనైతే వెనుకబడినటువంటి జనాభా, వెనుకబడినటువంటి ప్రజలు ఉన్నారో వారికి కావలసినటువంటి చైతన్యం, నైపుణ్యం, ప్రావీణ్యం, ఆలోచన విధానం, దృక్పథంలో మార్పు రాకుండా పోతుంది. అంటే ఎంతకాలం వాళ్ళని ఒక ఓటు బ్యాంకు లాగానే, ఒక ఓటు బ్యాంకు సిస్టమ్ లాగానే వాళ్ళని చూడడం వలన వారి యొక్క ఆలోచన విధానంలో కూడా, వాళ్ళ యొక్క దృక్పథంలో కూడా మార్పు తీసుకురాలేకపోతున్నారు. విద్యా అవకాశాలు, వైద్య అవకాశాలు, ఆరోగ్యం, ప్రభుత్వం నుండి వచ్చేటువంటి సదుపాయాలు వినియోగించుకోవడంలో కూడా వీళ్ళు చాలా వెనుకబడి ఉన్నారు. ఒకవేళ వీళ్ళకు ఈ అవకాశాలు అందాలి అంటే వీళ్ళు ఒక దళారీ వ్యవస్థను అప్రోచ్ కావాల్సినటువంటి సందర్భం కూడా మనం అప్పుడప్పుడు చూస్తూ ఉంటాం. పేపర్లలో వస్తూ ఉంటుంది, నీకు నేను ప్రభుత్వం నుండి ఈ న్యాయం, ఈ అవకాశం నీకు అందించడానికి నాకు ఎత్తిస్తావు అనేటువంటి నాయకులు లేరంటారా? దళారీ వ్యవస్థ మనలాంటి రాష్ట్రాలలో లేదందామా? మరి ఇది పెద్ద ఆటంకం కాదందామా? మరి ఇటువంటి వ్యవస్థ మారాలి అంటే, పోవాలి అంటే ముందుగా ప్రజల యొక్క ఆలోచన దృక్పథంలో, ఆలోచన విధానంలో మార్పు రావాలి. అంతేకాకుండా ఎక్కడనైతే సమస్య ఉంటుందో ఆ సమస్యకి మూల కారణం ఏంటో పరిశోధన జరగాలి. ఈ పరిశోధన పైన ప్రభుత్వాలు సరైనటువంటి అవగాహన కలిగి ఉండాలి. ఈ పరిశోధన పైన, ఈ పరిశోధన ఫలితాల పైన ప్రభుత్వాలు చాలా నిర్మాణాత్మకమైనటువంటి నిర్ణయాలు తీసుకొని మరి ఎక్కడనైతే ఉపాధి అవకాశాలు కల్పించాలో, ఎక్కడనైతే వ్యవసాయ రంగాన్ని అభివృద్ధిపరచాలో, ఎక్కడనైతే సాగునీరు సమస్యని తీర్చాలో, ఇటువంటి అంశాలపైన మరి ప్రభుత్వాలు ముందు చూపుతోటి ఉన్నారు. దళారీ వ్యవస్థను నిర్మూలించాలి, ద్రవ్యోల్బణాన్ని అరికట్టాలి. ఎవరైతే పేద ప్రజలు ఉంటారో, ఎవరైతే తక్కువ తలసరి ఆదాయ స్థాయి కలిగి ఉన్న ప్రజలు ఉంటారో వారి కోసం ప్రత్యేకంగా ప్రభుత్వాలు వారికి నేరుగా ప్రభుత్వ అవకాశాలు, ప్రభుత్వ సదుపాయాలు నేరుగా వారికి అందేలాగా విధి విధానాలని రూపొందించాలి. మరి విధి విధానాలను రూపొందించాలి అంటే ఏమన్నట్టు అంటే పూర్తిగా దళారీ వ్యవస్థని పక్కన పెట్టాలి అన్నట్టే. కానీ ఈరోజు అది సాధ్యం అవుతుందా ప్రభుత్వాలకి అన్నది ఒక పెద్ద ప్రశ్న. మరి ఇలా అయితే మనం ఇప్పుడు చెప్పుకున్నటువంటి సమస్యలు అన్నీ కూడా ఇంకా మరి ఎలా? అందుకే విద్యా అవకాశాలని మరి విస్తరింపచేయాలి. నాణ్యమైనటువంటి విద్య అందించడం, మరి ప్రశ్నించేటువంటి తత్వాన్ని అలవర్చు అలవాటు చేయడం, ఇది మీ హక్కు అని చెప్పడం వేరు, ప్రభుత్వం మీకు ఇస్తుంది అని చెప్పడం వేరు. ఇది ప్రభుత్వం మీరు ప్రభుత్వాన్ని మీరు డిమాండ్ చేయాలని చెప్పడం వేరు, ప్రభుత్వాన్ని మీరు ఒక అప్పీల్ పెట్టుకొని అని చెప్పడం వేరు. అంటే ఇగో ఇటువంటి విధానాలు అన్నీ కూడా వెనుకబడినటువంటి ఆర్థికంగా, సామాజికంగా, రాజకీయంగా, సాంస్కృతికంగా వెనుకబడినటువంటి జనాభాని వాటి యొక్క ఏమంటామంటే వాటి యొక్క చేతులని కట్టిపడేస్తున్నాయి. వారి యొక్క ఆలోచన విధానాన్ని కట్టిపడి వేస్తున్నాయి. వాళ్ళ యొక్క వాక్ స్వాతంత్రాన్ని కూడా నిర్బంధిస్తున్నాయి అని మనం చెప్పొచ్చు. ఈరోజు ఉన్నటువంటి దళారీ వ్యవస్థ అంతా ఇంతేం కాదు. ఈ దళారీ వ్యవస్థ ఈరోజు పుట్టింది కాదు. స్వాతంత్రం వచ్చినప్పటి నుండి దళారీ వ్యవస్థ బలపడుతూ వస్తుంది, బాగుపడుతూ వస్తుంది. కానీ ఎక్కడనైతే మరి కఠిన పేదరికంలో సమాజం ఉందో, ఎక్కడనైతే ఆహార ఉద్యోగిత కోసం, ఆహారం కోసం మరి స్ట్రగుల్ చేసేటువంటి జనాభా ఉందో, పీపుల్ ఉన్నారో, వారి కోసం కావాల్సినటువంటి నిర్ణయాలు తీసుకోవడం, ఆ పథకాలు రూపొందించడం. అంటే ఎప్పుడైనా కూడా ప్రభుత్వాల యొక్క పనితీరు ఎలా ఉండాలి అంటే, రోజు లేదా ప్రభుత్వమే ఒక చేపని పట్టి ఇస్తుంది మీకు తినండి అని ప్రభుత్వం పథకాలను రూపొందించకూడదు. ఎలా ఉండాలి అంటే, వాళ్లకు స్వయం సమృద్ధిని, వాళ్లకు స్వీయ ఉత్పత్తి మోడలింగ్ని, వాళ్లకు ఏ విధంగానైతే చేపలు పట్టేటువంటి శక్తి సామర్థ్యాలు, నైపుణ్యం, ప్రావీణ్యం అలవర్చుకోవాలో వాళ్ళను ఆ దిశగా ప్రిపేర్ చేయాలి. ఉత్పత్తి కార్యకలాపాలలో వాళ్ళను భాగస్వాములను చేయాలి. ఉత్పత్తి రంగంలో వాళ్ళను భాగస్వాములను చేయాలి. వాళ్ళకు కావలసినటువంటి స్కిల్స్, నైపుణ్యం, ప్రావీణ్యం, వారి యొక్క సామర్థ్యం, వాళ్ళ యొక్క ఎఫిషియన్సీని మరి ప్రభుత్వాలు వెలికి తీసి వారికి కావలసినటువంటి మరి అన్ని సదుపాయాలను అందిస్తూ వాళ్ళలో కొంత చైతన్యం తీసుకురావాలి. కానీ అలా ప్రభుత్వాలు చేయలేకపోతున్నాయి. మరి ఎందుకు చేయలేకపోతున్నాయి అంటే, ఇది సాధ్యం కానటువంటి అంశమా? మనకి అసమానతల గురించి లారెన్స్ వక్రరేఖ చెప్తుంది. ఎంతమంది పేదరికం రేపున దిగున ఉన్నారు మనం ఇప్పటికీ కూడా చూస్తున్నాం. దాదాపుగా అటు ఇటుగా సుమారుగా 30 కోట్ల జనాభా ఇప్పటికీ కూడా ఇంకా పేదరిక రేఖకు దిగున నివసిస్తున్నారు. అంటే మనం మరి ఇంకా ఎంత పెద్ద సమస్యని మనం కలిగి ఉన్నాము, ఎంత పెద్ద సవాలు మన ముందు ఉందో అనేది మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఏది ఏమైనా ప్రపంచ ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థ మారుతున్నటువంటి దిశగా, మరి ప్రపంచ పోకడ ఏ విధంగానైతే ఉందో, మరి ప్రజా చైతన్యం, ప్రజల ఆలోచన విధానం లోపల ఇది మీ హక్కు, ఇది మీ రైట్, మీకున్నటువంటి ఈ అవకాశాలు మీకు ప్రభుత్వాన్ని అడిగి మరి మీరు కల్పించుకునేటువంటిది మీకు ఉన్నటువంటి మీ హక్కు అనేటువంటి ఆలోచన ప్రజల లోపల క్రియేట్ కావాలి. అలా ప్రశ్నించేటువంటి తత్వం ఎప్పుడైతే ప్రజల లోపల మొదలవుతుందో అప్పుడు ప్రభుత్వాలకి కొంత జాగరూకత జాగ్రత్త పెరుగుతుంది. కానీ అది ప్రభుత్వాలు జీర్ణించుకునేటువంటి అంశం కాదేమో అని మనం భావించవచ్చు. ఎందుకు అంటే, ఈరోజు అలా ప్రశ్నిస్తున్న అటువంటి సమాజం తయారవుతుంది అంటే, ఇంకా రాజకీయ నాయకులు వాళ్ళకి రాజకీయ భవిష్యత్తు లేకుండా పోతుంది అనేటువంటి ఒక భావాజాలం కూడా బలపడుతుంది. ఇది సామాజికంగా, ఆర్థికంగా, రాజకీయంగా, సాంస్కృతిక పరంగా వెనుకబడినటువంటి జనాభాని మరి ఎక్కడ వేసి మరి వారి యొక్క రేషియో ఇంకా గణనీయంగా పెరుగుతూనే వస్తుంది. ఇది ఆర్థిక అభివృద్ధికి, దేశ అభివృద్ధికి, రాష్ట్రాల అభివృద్ధికి ఒక ఆటంకమైనప్పటికీ కూడా ముందు తరాలకి ఇది ఒక పెద్ద సమస్య, సవాల్ అయినప్పటికీ కూడా ప్రభుత్వాలు ఈ పెద్ద సమస్యని ఒక చిన్న సమస్యలాగానే చూసి చూడనట్టుగా పోతున్నవి. చాలా చిన్న మైక్రో లెవెల్ పాయింట్గా చూస్తున్నవి. అది ఎందుకు చూస్తున్నవి అంటే ప్రభుత్వాలకి కావలసినటువంటి ఓటు బ్యాంక్ పదిలంగా ఉంచుకోవడం కోసం. ఇటువంటి సందర్భంలో మరి ప్రజల యొక్క సమాన అవకాశాలు, ఇక్కడ లింగ వివక్షత, కుల వివక్షత, మతం పైన లేకుంటే ఇంకా ప్రాంతం వివక్షత, అనేక రకమైనటువంటి ఈ వివక్షతలన్నీ కూడా చిన్న చిన్న సమస్యలన్నీ కలిసి ఒక పెద్ద సమస్యగా మారి ఈరోజు దేశ భవిష్యత్తుని ప్రశ్నించేటువంటి ఒక స్థాయికి చేరుకున్నవి. కానీ ప్రభుత్వాలు మాత్రం ఎటువంటి జాగరూకత లేకుండా, ఎటువంటి ముందు చూపు లేకుండా అవి వారి యొక్క కుటుంబాలని కాపాడుకోసం కోసం, వారి యొక్క ఆర్థిక ప్రయోజనాల కోసం, వారి యొక్క స్వ ప్రయోజనాల కోసం, వారి యొక్క బంధువుల కోసం, బంధుప్రీతి, వారి యొక్క దగ్గరి వారు అని, వారి యొక్క పార్టీ వారని, వారి యొక్క ఎదుగుదలకి దోహదపడిన వారని ఎన్నో రకాలుగా వారి కోసం వాళ్ళు, వాళ్ళ కోసం వాళ్ళు అనే చందనంగా ఈరోజు వ్యవస్థని నిర్మించుకున్నారే తప్ప మరి ఎక్కడైతే సమస్య ఉందో ఈ సమస్యను కూకిటి వేలతోటి పెకిలించాలి, తీసివేయాలి. అది అవసరం సామాజికంగా, ఆర్థికంగా, రాజకీయంగా. మరి ఎంతవరకైనా మరి పోటీ అన్నది, ప్రశ్నించేటువంటి తత్వం అన్నది మరి అటువంటి వెనుకబడినటువంటి వర్గ ప్రజలకి, పేదరికంలో నివసిస్తున్నటువంటి ప్రజలకి ప్రశ్నించేటువంటి ఒక గొంతుకని తయారు చేయాలి అంటే ఈరోజు ఎక్కడనైనా కూడా ఎవరు ఎంతకి అమ్ముడుపోతారో, ఎవరు ఎంతకి కొనవచ్చు, ఎంత సమస్య అయినా కూడా ఆ సమస్యని ఏ విధంగా పరిష్కరించవచ్చు అనేది కాదు. ఆ సమస్యకి సృష్టించిన దానికి మూలం నాలుక ఏంటి, లేకుంటే మూలమైనటువంటి వ్యక్తి ఎవరు, వాక్ ఎవరు, ఆ వాయిస్ ఎక్కడిది, ఆ వాయిస్ని ఏ విధంగా కొనాలి, ఏ విధంగా నొక్కాలి, ఏ విధంగా బ్లాక్మెయిల్ చేయాలి, ఏ విధంగా వాళ్ళను ఆ వాక్ను, ఆ వాయిస్ని తుంచాలి అనేటువంటి ఒక ధోరణి తప్ప మరి సమస్యని ఒక సదుద్దేశంతో, ఒక మంచి ముందు చూపుతోటి మరి సమస్యని పరిష్కరించలేకపోతున్నాయి. పరిష్కార ధోరణి అనేది వాటి యొక్క రాజీలో లేదు అనేటువంటి ఒక అంశాన్ని కూడా మనం చూస్తూ వస్తున్నాం. ఇది రాబోయే తరాలకి ఎందుకోసం అంటే ఇప్పటికీ కూడా చాలా మంది ప్రజలు వెనుకబాటుతనంతో, నిరక్షరాస్యతో, నిరుద్యోగంతో, అసమానతలతోటి సాంఘికంగా, ఆర్థికంగా, రాజకీయంగా, సామాజికంగా, సాంస్కృతికంగా ఎంతో వెనుకబడి ఉన్నటువంటి మనం జనాభాని చూస్తున్నాం. వీళ్ళందరూ కూడా మరి ఈ సమస్య అనేది ఇంకా కొంచెం సమస్య అన్నది మరి పెరిగిపోవడం వలన ఇది ప్రశ్న, రాజకీయ దేశ భవిష్యత్తుకి ఒక ప్రశ్నార్థకంగా మారేటువంటి ప్రమాదం కూడా ఉంది. కాబట్టి ప్రభుత్వాలు మరి ఇటువంటి సమస్యలని పరిష్కరించడంలో కూడా సదుద్దేశంతో ముందుకు రావాల్సినటువంటి తరుణం ఇది. ఎక్కడనైతే సమస్య ఉందో దానికి మరి ఆ సమస్యను పరిష్కరించడానికి ఒక మంచి నిర్మాణాత్మకమైనటువంటి నిర్ణయాలు తీసుకోవాల్సినటువంటి సందర్భం. అలా ప్రభుత్వాలు నడుచుకోవడం ద్వారా, మరి అలా పార్టీలు నడుచుకోవడం ద్వారా ఈరోజు మనం మీడియా యొక్క పాత్ర కూడా ఎంతవరకు మరి సఫలీకృతం అవుతుంది అనేటువంటి అంశాన్ని కూడా మనం చూస్తూ ఉన్నాం. కాబట్టి ఈ సమానత్వం అన్నది ప్రజ్వరిల్లాలి అంటే ముందుగా పూర్తిగా అసమానతలని నిర్మూలించవలసినటువంటి ఆవశ్యకత అవసరం నేటి ప్రభుత్వాల పైననే, నేటి రాజకీయ పార్టీల పైననే ఉన్నది. అది వారి యొక్క భవిష్యత్తును కాదు, రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వం, దేశ దేశ ఆర్థిక, దేశ రాజకీయ, దేశ భవిష్యత్తుకి ఒక దిక్సూచిలాగా పనిచేస్తుంది.
নমস্কাৰ, মই ডেইজি কৰ্মী। আপোনালোকৰ আজি পাঠ্যক্ৰমত এডমিনিষ্ট্ৰেটিভ যিটো আমাৰ পাৰ্ট আছে পাব্লিক এডমিনিষ্ট্ৰেশ্যনৰ তাৰ পাৰ্চপেক্টিভৰ কিছুমান তত্ত্ব আমি আলোচনা কৰি আহিছোঁ। শেহতীয়াকৈ আমি কেইটামান তত্ত্ব আৰু বাকী আছে, সেইখিনি আজি আগবাঢ়িছোঁ ক'বলৈ। চ' প্ৰথমতে আমি চাব গ'লে বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক যিটো এপ্ৰ'চ, আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক যিটো আমাৰ প্ৰেক্ষাপট, সেই প্ৰেক্ষাপটটো আমাৰ এজ এ থিয়ৰী আমি পাব্লিক এডমিনিষ্ট্ৰেশ্যনত কেনেকৈ ইউজ কৰিছোঁ, আমাৰ প্ৰশাসনত এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ কিদৰে ভূমিকা আছে, সেইখিনিৰ বিষয়ে এটা থিয়ৰিটিকেল আমি নলেজ আমি পাম। যিহেতু আমি এডমিনিষ্ট্ৰেশ্যন বুলি পাই আহিছোঁ, বা এডমিনিষ্ট্ৰেশ্যন মিনছ এটা বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি আছে বা চৰকাৰ এখনে কেনেকৈ শাসন চলায়। চ' গোটেইখিনি আমি ষ্টেপ বাই ষ্টেপ পাই আহিছোঁ। চ' এই যিটো বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক প্ৰচেছটো কেনেদৰে ষ্টাৰ্ট হৈছিলে বা ক'ৰ পৰা ষ্টাৰ্ট হৈছিলে বা কিয় এই প্ৰচেছটো লোৱা হ'ল, এটা প্ৰশাসনত বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিৰ কেনেদৰে ভূমিকা থাকে, সেইখিনিৰ বিষয়ে আমি বিশেষভাৱে এই পাঠ্যক্ৰমত বা এইখিনি লেচনত আমি বিশেষভাৱে ইয়াতে আলোচনা কৰা হৈছে। আৰু বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ দাৰ্শনিক পণ্ডিতসকলে তেওঁলোকৰ যিবিলাক মতামত, ধৰি লওক মেক্স ৱেবাৰ হওক বা আন যিবিলাক আছে হেগেল হওক, চ' তেওঁলোকৰ বেলেগ বেলেগ ভিউজবিলাক, আৰু বহুতো স্কলাৰ আছে যিবিলাকে তেওঁলোকৰ নিৰ্দিষ্ট ভিউজবিলাক আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক লৈ আগবঢ়াইছে। চ' পাঠ্যক্ৰমটোত আমি বিশেষকৈ ইয়াতে বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক এপ্ৰ'চ ইন পাব্লিক এডমিনিষ্ট্ৰেশ্যন বুলি পাই আহিছোঁ। ত' চেপ্টাৰটোত ইয়াতে আমি প্ৰথমতে ইয়াৰ ইন্ট্ৰডাকশ্যনখিনি পাম। তাৰপিছতে ইন্ট্ৰডাকশ্যন হোৱাৰ পিছত ইয়াৰে আপোনাৰ ছিৰিজখিনি চিলেবাছটোত অবজেক্টিভ আছে, ইন্ট্ৰডাকশ্যন আছে, নেচাৰ অফ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি, তাৰপিছত প্ৰি ৱেবাৰিয়ান বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক নেৰেটিভছ আছে, য'ত কিছুমান স্কলাৰে তেওঁলোকৰ বিশেষভাৱে কিছুমান বৰঙণি ইয়াতে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ এই ধাৰণাটোৰ ওপৰত আগবঢ়াইছে, য'ৰ পৰা আমি বিতংকৈ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ কি বস্তু বা কেনেদৰে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ গঠন হৈছিলে, ইয়াৰ থিয়ৰিটিকেল পাৰ্টটো আমি জানিব পাৰিম, বা ইয়াৰ ইভলিউচনেৰী পাৰ্ট যিটো সেইটো আমি জানিব পাৰিম। চ' পোনপ্ৰথমে আমি ইয়াতে JS Mill কনচিডাৰেশ্যন অন বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি তাৰ বিষয়ে আমি পাম। তাৰপিছতে আমাৰ আছে হেগেলছ পাৰ্চপেক্টিভ অন বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি, সেইখিনি বিষয়ে আমি লাৰ্ণ কৰিম। তাৰপিছত আছে মাৰ্কছ ভিউজ অন বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি, কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ যিজন আছে, চ' কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছৰ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিক লৈ বা আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক লৈ তেওঁৰ কি ধৰণৰ ভূমিকা আছিলে সেইখিনিৰ বিষয়ে আলোচনা কৰা হৈছে। নেক্সট পৰ্যায়টো হৈছে দ্য পাৱাৰ এলিট কনচেপ্ট, সেইখিনি আমি নেক্সট ক্লাছত আমি ডিছকাছ কৰিম। তাৰপিছত ইয়াতে আছে বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক এপ্ৰ'চ অফ মেক্স ৱেবাৰ। চ' একৰ্ডিং টু মেক্স ৱেবাৰ আমাৰ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিটোক কেনেদৰে তেওঁ ধাৰণা কৰিছিলে, তেওঁৰ মতে বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি কি বা আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ কি বস্তু, চ' সেইখিনিৰ বিষয়ে বিতংভাৱে দিয়া আছে। চ' ফাৰ্ষ্ট আমি ক'ব গ'লে ইয়াতে বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিৰ আমি পৰিচয়, যিটো আমাৰ ব্যুৰ' আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ, এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ শব্দটো পোনপ্ৰথমে ব্যুৰ' শব্দৰ পৰা উৎপত্তি হৈছে বুলি ক'ব পাৰোঁ, য'ত আমি পাওঁ যে বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি ইজ ডিৰাইভ ফ্ৰম দ্য লেটিন ৱৰ্ড ব্যুৰ', অৰ্থাৎ ব্যুৰ' মিনছ ৰাইটিং টেবল অৰ ডেস্ক, অৰ্থাৎ টেবুলৰ ওপৰত লিখা বা ডেস্কৰ ওপৰত লিখা। ইয়াতে মানে গ্ৰীক ভাষাৰ যিটো অলপমান প্ৰভাৱ পৰিছিল। চ' ইন ফ্ৰেঞ্চ লা ব্যুৰ' মিনছ এ ক্লথ ইউজ টু টেবল টু পাব্লিক অথৰিটিজ, ফ্ৰম টেবল ক্লথ অৰ টেবল কভাৰ্ড বাই টেবল গট দ্য নেম ব্যুৰ'। লেটাৰ ব্যুৰ' বিগেন টু ইউজ টু দ্য অফিচ ৰুম ফেয়াৰ ইন টেবল ইন কেপ্ট। চ' এনেদৰে ব্যুৰ' শব্দৰ পৰা, মানে ব্যুৰ' মানে ডেস্কৰ ওপৰত থৈ কিবা এটা লিখা, যোনে কিবা তালিকা বনোৱা, তেনেকুৱা এটা মেইন কৰি এই লেটিন ৱৰ্ডটোৰ পৰা ব্যুৰ' শব্দটো আহিছিলে। তাৰপিছতে আমাৰ আহিছে যিখিনি লেটাৰ পাৰ্ট ব্যুৰ' বিগেন টু দ্য ইউজড অফিচ, চ' অফিচবিলাকত সেইটো ইউজ কৰা হৈছিলে। তাৰপিছতে কি হৈছে, ডিউৰিং 18th century দ্য টাৰ্ম বিগেন টু ইউজ টু ৰিফাৰ প্লেচ ৱেৰ অফিচিয়েলছ ৱৰ্ক। তাৰপিছতে যিটো তাৰ নেক্সট পাৰ্টটো আছে বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি, CRACY, ইংৰাজীত ক্ৰেচি, ইন গ্ৰীক মিনছ ৰুল্ড, মানে ৰুল কৰা, য'ত মানে টেবুলত বা ডেস্কত বহি যিজনে লিখে তেওঁ ৰুল কৰিব লাগে বা তেওঁৰ তালিকা প্ৰস্তুত কৰিব লাগে, কেনেদৰে শাসন কৰিব লাগে। Thus bureaucracy refers to the rule of officials. চ' অফিচিয়েলছবিলাকে কেনেদৰে ৰুল কৰিব লাগে সেই বিষয়ে 18th century ফাৰ্ষ্ট টাইমৰ বাবে এটা কনচেপ্ট তেওঁলোকে গ্ৰীক দেশত আৰু ফ্ৰান্স দেশত উদ্ভৱ হৈছিলে। চ' সেই ফ'ল' কৰি, সেই ৱৰ্ডকেইটা ফ'ল' কৰি যিটো আমি বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি ৱৰ্ডটো পালোঁ, সেই ৱৰ্ডটোৰ জৰিয়তে ডিফাৰ দ্য অথৰিটি অফ পাৱাৰ উইথ দ্য গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট ডিপাৰ্টমেণ্টছ ক্লেইম টু দেমছেল্ফ। সো যেটো আমাৰ গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট ডিপাৰ্টমেণ্টছ আছে সেইখিনি বিষয়ে আমি বিশেষভাৱে এই ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচি শব্দটোৰ পৰা আমি পৰিচিত হওঁ যে ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচি কেনেদৰে গভৰ্ণমেণ্টক আমাৰ চৰকাৰখনক পৰিচয় কৰি দিয়ে সো ফাৰ্ষ্ট টাইম পোনপ্ৰথমভাৱে অষ্টাদশ শতিকাত যিটো 18th চেঞ্চুৰী বুলি কওঁ সেই 18th চেঞ্চুৰীত আমাৰ এম.ডি. গৰ্ণে সো এজন ফৰাচী তেওঁ চিন্তাবিদ আছিলে তেওঁ সৰ্বপ্ৰথমে এই ৱৰ্ডটো তেওঁ উলিয়াইছিলে যে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ বা ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচি ৱৰ্ডটো তেওঁ পোনপ্ৰথমভাৱে উলিয়াইছিলে আৰু এই ৱৰ্ডটো তেওঁ এনেদৰে লিখিছিল যে বিভিন্ন উৎসৰ পৰা চিনাক্ত কৰা তেওঁ কৰিছিল আৰু এটা সময়ত সেই ৱৰ্ডটো গৈ কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ মেক্স ৱেবাৰ ৰবাৰ্ট মিচিম উইলিয়াম ৱৰ্ডছৱৰ্থ এনেদৰে বিভিন্ন দাৰ্শনিকে তেওঁলোকৰ বেলেগ বেলেগ ভিউজবিলাক ইয়াত আমাৰ আগবঢ়াইছে সো আমি বিশেষকৈ মেক্স ৱেবাৰৰ বিষয়ে বিশেষকৈ আমি বহলভাৱে লিখা আছে কিন্তু তাৰ উপৰিও আমি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ গোটেই অভিধাটো আমি এটা প্ৰায় তেওঁ মানে কি কৰিছে ফাৰ্ষ্ট টাইম যিজনে ওলাইছিলে এম.ডি. গৰ্ণে তেওঁ এটা নিগেটিভ ভিউজত তেওঁ ইউজ কৰিছিলে যে কি হয় আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক মানে কিছুমান চৰকাৰী বিষয়াসকলক সূচায় বা যিবিলাকে শাসন কৰে সেই শাসন বিষয়াসকলক সূচাইছিলে সো তেওঁলোকে অষ্টাদশ আৰু ঊনবিংশ শতিকাত যিহেতু শব্দটো ব্যৱহাৰ হৈছিলে ইয়াত বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ চৰকাৰী কৰ্তৃত্ব আৰু চৰকাৰী বিভাগবিলাকত কিদৰে দোষীবিলাকক ধাৰ্য কৰা হয় বা কেনেদৰে তেওঁলোকৰ দোষবিলাক আমি আগবাঢ়ি চাব পাৰোঁ যে ক'ত কি তেওঁলোকে ভুল কৰিছে বা দোষ আছে সেইবিলাক বিষয়ে তেওঁলোকে অলপ এৱাৰনেছ আহিছিলে চ' সেই বিষয়টো লৈ তেওঁলোকে এটা সময়ত কি কৰিছিলে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বিৰুদ্ধে এটা অভিযোগ কৰিবলৈ এই শব্দটো ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিছিলে চ' প্ৰথমে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ শব্দটো প্ৰস্তুত কৰিছিলে তেওঁ 18th চেঞ্চুৰীত তাৰপিছত ইয়াতে সেই বিষয়াসকলৰ যিবিলাক তেওঁলোকৰ কাৰ্যকলাপ সেই কাৰ্যকলাপবোৰৰ বিৰোধিতা কৰিবলৈ এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ অভিধাটো এটা নকাৰাত্মক অৰ্থত ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হৈছিলে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ অভিধাৰে সাধাৰণভাৱে অসামৰিক সেৱা বিষয়াসকলক তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি আত্ম সচেতনতা আৰু উচ্চ স্তৰৰ দৃষ্টিভংগীক বৰ্ণনা কৰিবলৈ ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হৈছিলে যিখিনি ব্যৱস্থাপীয় কাৰ্যাৱলী আছে তাৰ দায়িত্ব নষ্ট কৰা আৰু প্ৰশাসনীয় যিখিনি অধিক্ৰম আছে সেইখিনি শীৰ্ষ পৰ্যায়ক বুজাবলৈ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ শব্দটো ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হৈছিল এটা মানে যিখিনি আমাৰ প্ৰশাসন প্ৰক্ৰিয়া আমাৰ এটা আছে যিহেতু সেই প্ৰশাসন প্ৰক্ৰিয়াৰ একেবাৰে শীৰ্ষ স্থানত যিবিলাক আমাৰ কাৰ্যকলাপ সংগঠিত হয় সেইখিনিৰ বিষয়ে আমি জানিবলৈ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ ৱৰ্ডটো আমি ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিছোঁ বুলি আমাৰ পাঠ্যপুথিত সন্নিৱিষ্ট হৈ আছে চ' লোক প্ৰশাসনৰ অধ্যয়নৰ পৰিসৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ হৈছে সংগঠন প্ৰভাৱশালী এটা ৰূপ চ' ইয়াতে আমাৰ প্ৰশাসনৰ এটা প্ৰভাৱশালী ৰূপ আমি যিটো আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ বুলি কওঁ চ' যি আমি গভৰ্ণমেণ্টৰ যিটো আমাৰ একশ্যন পাৰ্ট that is it means bureaucracy means which part of our government action part য'ত আমাৰ সকলো কাৰ্যকৰী কৰা হয় কামবিলাক চৰকাৰৰ বা চৰকাৰ এখনৰ সকলো কামবিলাক য'ত কাৰ্যকৰী কৰা হয় আৰু শীৰ্ষ স্থানৰ যিবিলাক বিষয়া আছে সেই বিষয়াবিলাকৰ যিবিলাক কাৰ্যকলাপ তাতে আমি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ ৱৰ্ডটো ইউজ কৰোঁ তেওঁ লোকসকলক এক প্ৰকাৰক সেই সময়ত 18th চেঞ্চুৰীত তেওঁ এটা ৱৰ্ড ইউজ কৰিছিলে যিটো তেওঁ কৈছিলে যে ব্যুৰোমেনিয়া বুলি চ' ব্যুৰোমেনিয়া মিনছ যিবিলাক প্ৰশাসনত দোষাৰোপ তেওঁ কৰিছিলে যে এটা নিগেটিভ এটা ভিউ তেওঁ আগবঢ়াইছিলে যে কেনেদৰে প্ৰশাসনত বিষয়াসকলে ৰাজহুৱা আগ্ৰহ মানে তেওঁলোকে আগ্ৰহৰ প্ৰতি তেওঁলোকে কেতিয়াও আগবাঢ়ি যোৱা নাছিলে তেওঁলোকৰ নিজৰ স্বাৰ্থৰ প্ৰতি সদায় গুৰুত্ব দিছিলে চ' সেইখিনি বিষয়ে তেওঁলোকে এটা বিশেষভাৱে আলোচনা কৰিছিলে সেই 18th চেঞ্চুৰীতে চ' তেওঁলোকে একৰ্ডিং টু এজন আছিলে যে এম.ডি. গৌৰৱ চ' এম.ডি. গৌৰৱে ক'ব বিচাৰিছিলে যে we have an illness in Frank with the plays havoc to the with us তো তেওঁলোকৰ এটা বেমাৰ আছিলে সেই বেমাৰটো হৈছে ব্যুৰোমেনিয়া চ' ইয়াৰ জৰিয়তে তেওঁ যিখিনি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বিষয়া সেই বিষয়াসকলৰ দোষবিলাক তেওঁ অলপ দেখুৱাব বিচাৰিছিলে আৰু তেওঁ ক'ব বিচাৰিছিলে কিদৰে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বিষয়াসকলে তেওঁলোকৰ অথৰিটি আৰু পাৱাৰটো কেতিয়াবা মিছ ইউজো কৰে বা গভৰ্ণমেণ্টৰ নাম লৈ বা চৰকাৰৰ নাম লৈ সেই শাসন বিষয়াসকলে কিদৰে কেতিয়াবা তেওঁলোকৰ কাৰ্যৰ পৰা বিৰূপ প্ৰতিক্ৰিয়া সৃষ্টি কৰে বা বিফলে যায় কেতিয়াবা চ' সেইখিনি তেওঁ ব্যুৰোমেনিয়া বুলি তেওঁ নাম দিছিলে চ' ৰাজহুৱা স্বাৰ্থত যিখিনি প্ৰতিষ্ঠিত হৈ থাকে চ' সেই কাৰ্যবোৰ থাকিব পাৰে যিদৰে তেওঁলোকে ব্যক্তিগত স্বাৰ্থ জড়িত কাৰ্যবিলাক সম্পাদন কৰে। চ' ৰাজহুৱা স্বাৰ্থতো তেওঁলোকে ব্যক্তিগত স্বাৰ্থৰ কামবিলাক সম্পাদন কৰে এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বিষয়াসকলে। একৰ্ডিং টু MD গৰ্ণাই তেওঁ শাসনৰ যিখিনি এটা নতুন গোট, এই গোটটোৰ বিষয়ে তেওঁ আমাক চিনাক্ত কৰি দিছিলে, য'ত শাসন ৰক্ষা কৰাটোৱে নিজে এক সমাপ্তি হৈ পৰিছিলে। ইয়াতে কি হৈছিলে, শাসনৰ পদ্ধতি, আমি কেনেদৰে শাসন কৰিব লাগে। চ' অকল যে শাসন কৰিবই লাগে এইটো নহয়, যে শাসন কৰা সকলৰ কিমান কাৰ্যকৰীতা আছে, তেওঁলোকে কিমান ইফিচিয়েণ্টলি কিমান নিষ্ঠাৰে কাম কৰিছে, বা তেওঁলোকৰ যিটো শীৰ্ষ পৰ্যায়ৰ বিষয়া আছে, সেই বিষয়াসকলে কেনেদৰে তেওঁলোকৰ কাম কাজবিলাক শাসন কাৰ্য চলাই আছে, সেই বিষয়ে এটা নতুন ৰূপ আমাক তেওঁ চিনাক্ত কৰি দিছিলে, আৰু সেই নতুন ৰূপটোক আমি বিউৰক্ৰেচি বুলি আমি ক'ব পাৰোঁ। আৰু ইয়াৰ থিয়ৰিটো আমি জানিবলৈ, আৰু বিশেষভাৱে কিছুমান স্কলাৰ আছে, চ' তেওঁলোকৰ ভিউজবিলাক আমি বেলেগ বেলেগ ষ্টেপত আমি জানিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰিম। চ' প্ৰতিদিনে কি হৈছে, আমাৰ সমগ্ৰ বিশ্বৰ নাগৰিকসকলে তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি প্ৰতিশোধ কৰিব লগা থাকে, অনুজ্ঞাপত্ৰ হওক, পাছপোৰ্ট হওক, বা বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ যিখিনি নৱীকৰণ কৰিব লগা পদ্ধতি থাকে, সেইবিলাক তেওঁলোকে অনলাইন যোগে বা অফলাইন যোগে প্ৰায় অনুসন্ধান কৰিবলৈ এই যিটো আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক গাঁথনি, সেই গাঁথনিৰ লগত সম্পৰ্কিত হ'ব লাগে। যিকোনো তথ্য জানিবলৈ হ'লে, বা চৰকাৰী যিখিনি কাম কাজ আছে কেনেদৰে পৰিচালনা হৈ আছে, যিখিনি আমি নাগৰিক হিচাপে জানিব লাগে, তাত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ভূমিকা অত্যন্ত গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ, আৰু আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই ডাইৰেক্টলি তাত জড়িত হৈ আছে, গোটেই গাঁথনিটোত জড়িত হৈ আছে। চ' কি হয়, এটা সমসাময়িক সমাজত এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ কি হয়, ৰাজহুৱা যিখিনি নীতি, সেই নীতিবিলাক ৰূপায়ণৰ বাবে এটা অপৰিহাৰ্য প্ৰতিষ্ঠান হৈ পৰিছে। আমাৰ পাব্লিক পলিচি বুলি কওঁ, সেই পলিচিবিলাক য'ত আমি ফুলফিল কৰিব লাগে, ইমপ্লিমেণ্টেশ্যন কৰিব লাগে, তাতে আমাৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ এটা গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ প্ৰতিষ্ঠান। সেই উইদাউট আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ আমি আমাৰ সেই নীতিবিলাক বা চৰকাৰৰ যিখিনি নীতি আমি ইমপ্লিমেণ্ট কৰোঁ বা পলিচিবিলাক বনোৱা হয়, সেই পলিচিবিলাক তাতে আমি সফলৰূপে আমি সেইখিনি কৰিব পাৰিম। চ' আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই কেইবাবছৰ ধৰি, বা বিশেষকৈ এছিয়া আৰু যিখিনি আমাৰ ইউৰোপিয়ান কাণ্ট্ৰি আছে, সেইবিলাকৰ বিশেষ মানে তেওঁলোকক প্ৰথম আৰম্ভণি হৈছিলে। চ' ইয়াৰ যিখিনি এছিয়া আৰু ইউৰোপত ৰাজ্যখনৰ এক মৌলিক অনন্তকাল হৈ পৰিছিল। তেওঁলোকৰ প্ৰতিটো স্থানতে যিটো প্ৰতিনিধি বা হোৱাৰ লগে লগে যিবিলাক কাৰ্য আছিল, সেই কাৰ্যবোৰ ইয়াৰ শাসকৰ পৰা শাসিত স্থানান্তৰলৈ কৰিছিল। চ' যিখিনি শাসক আছিল, সেই শাসক শ্ৰেণীৰ পৰা যিবিলাক শাসিত হৈ আছিল, সেইবিলাকক বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণে তেওঁলোকে স্থানান্তৰ কৰিছিল। চ' প্ৰাক আধুনিকতাৰ বিপৰীতে, মানে যিখিনি আমাৰ পষ্ট মডাৰ্নিজম আছে, তাৰ অপজিটত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই যি ব্যক্তিগত অনুগততাৰ প্ৰতি আগ্ৰহী আছিল। চ' এটা সময়ত তেওঁলোকে নিজৰ এটা পাৰ্চনেল ব্যক্তিগত স্বাৰ্থও তাতে জড়িত হৈ আছিলে যিহেতু। চ' এট প্ৰেজেণ্ট সেই ব্যক্তিগত স্বাৰ্থৰ লগত আমাৰ যিখিনি আমাৰ সামাজিক স্বাৰ্থ, সেইখিনিও পূৰণ হ'ব লাগিব, আৰু সেইটোৰ প্ৰতি ব্যক্তিগত অনুগততা, আৰু তাতে আমি আগ্ৰহী হ'ব লাগিব থ্ৰু দিছ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ জৰিয়তে। আধুনিক আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ, যিটো মডাৰ্ণ আমাৰ বিউৰক্ৰেচি বুলি কওঁ, সেই মডাৰ্ণ বিউৰক্ৰেচিত কি হৈছিলে, এটা অব্যক্তিত্বৰ আধাৰত প্ৰস্তুত কৰা হৈছিল। তাত কোনো ইণ্ডিভিজুৱেলিজম নাছিলে, যি ৰাজনৈতিক আৰু সামাজিক শক্তিৰ দ্বাৰা প্ৰভাৱিত নহয়। আমাৰ যিখিনি আমাৰ পলিটিকেল যিখিনি পাৱাৰ বা ছ'চিয়েল যিখিনি ছিষ্টেম আছে, তাৰ দ্বাৰা কি সেই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰটো কেতিয়াও প্ৰভাৱিত নহয় বুলি ক'ব বিচাৰিছে। চ' আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ হৈছে সামাজিক সত্তা, যি ৰাজনীতি আৰু সমাজৰ সৈতে নিৰন্তৰভাৱে সম্পৰ্কিত হৈ থাকে। যিখিনি আমাৰ সামাজিক সত্তা আছে, সেই সামাজিক সত্তা, যি ৰাজনৈতিক পদ্ধতি আছে, আৰু সমাজৰ সৈতে যিখিনি কাৰ্যকলাপ চলি থাকে, তাৰ লগত এটা নিৰন্তৰভাৱে এটা সম্পৰ্ক জড়িত হৈ আছে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ। চ' প্ৰকৃততে ইয়াক আমি ক'ব গ'লে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ এটা ৰাজহুৱা প্ৰশাসন আৰু সংগঠন, আৰু আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ব্যৱস্থাপনাৰ সৈতে সমতুল্য কৰা হয়, যিখিনি আমি সদায় অনুশীলন কৰিব লগা হয়, আৰু অনুশাসনৰ যিখিনি আধাৰশিলা, সেই আধাৰশিলা হিচাপে আমি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক ল'ব লাগিব। আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত সাহিত্যৰ মূল চিন্তা আছিল ৰাজ্য, সমাজ আৰু অৰ্থনীতি সম্পৰ্কত ইয়াৰ ভূমিকা ধাৰণা কৰা। যিখিনি আমাৰ লিটাৰেচি আছিলে, লিটাৰেচি লৈ আমাৰ যিখিনি চিন্তা আছিলে, আৰু ষ্টেট লৈ, ছ'চাইটি লৈ, আৰু যিখিনি আমাৰ ইকনমিক কণ্ডিশ্যন আছে, সেইখিনিৰ লগত ৰিলেটেড কৰি ইয়াৰ কিছুমান ভূমিকা ধাৰণা কৰা হয়। আৰম্ভণিতে কি হৈছিলে, আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ ইয়াৰ প্ৰশাসনিক অৱস্থাবোৰ কাম কাজবিলাক চৰকাৰৰ বিভিন্ন ব্যৱস্থাৰ ভিতৰত সংগঠন হিচাপে বিশ্লেষণ কৰা হৈছিলে। তাৰপিছতে কি হৈছিলে, আমাৰ যিখিনি প্ৰশাসনিক পাৰ্ট আছিলে, সেই প্ৰশাসনিক পাৰ্টটো এটা কিছুমান ভিউ পইণ্টত লোৱা হৈছিলে। এটা তেওঁলোকে সেইখিনি সময়ত আফটাৰ 19th century দুটা ভিউজ লোৱা হৈছিলে, এটা বাহ্যিক আৰু এটা হৈছে আভ্যন্তৰীণ ভিউ পইণ্ট, যিটো আমি এক্সটাৰ্নেল আৰু ইণ্টাৰনেল ভিউ পইণ্ট বুলি ক'ব পাৰোঁ। আমাৰ পাঠ্যপুথিত এক্সটাৰ্নেল আৰু ইণ্টাৰনেল বুলি আছে। চ' এই এক্সটাৰ্নেল যিটো পাৰ্ট, সেই এক্সটাৰ্নেল পাৰ্টত আমাৰ কি হয়, মুখ্য কাৰ্যবাহী পাৰ্টটো হয়। যেনেদৰে আইন সভা আৰু ন্যায়পালিকাৰ সৈতে আন্তঃ প্ৰতিষ্ঠানগত সম্পৰ্ক অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত হৈ থাকে, আৰু আভ্যন্তৰীণ যিটো মাত্ৰা, সেই আভ্যন্তৰীণ মাত্ৰা অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত থাকে প্ৰশাসনিক সংস্থাসমূহৰ গঠন আৰু কাৰ্যকলাপৰ সৈতে সম্পৰ্কিত আন্তঃ প্ৰতিষ্ঠানৰ আৰু তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি প্ৰতিষ্ঠানত যিখিনি কাৰ্যকলাপ হয়, সেই কাৰ্যকলাপবিলাক ইটোৰ লগত সিটো সম্পৰ্কিত হৈ থাকে। এই প্ৰশাসনিক যিখিনি কাৰ্যকলাপ, তাৰপিছত তেওঁলোকৰ উদ্যোগিক সমাজৰ যিখিনি উত্থান, সেই উত্থানৰ সৈতে তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি কাৰিকৰী দক্ষতা, মূল্যৱান আৰু তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি কৰ্তৃত্ব থাকে, সেইবিলাকৰ উপৰিও তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি ডিচিপ্লিন থাকে, সেই ডিচিপ্লিনৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত কিছুমান যিখিনি মডাৰ্ণ যিখিনি ফেচিলিটি বা আধুনিকতাৰ দ্বাৰা কিছুমান চেঞ্জ আনিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰা হৈছে, আৰু সেই চেঞ্জবিলাকৰ সৈতে বেলেগ বেলেগ ক্ষেত্ৰত মিলাব পৰাকৈ এক কাৰ্যকৰী সংগঠন এটাৰ গঠন কৰাৰ প্ৰয়োজন তেওঁলোকে চিন্তা চৰ্চা কৰি আছিলে। চ' ইয়াতে আমি বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ আমি যিখিনি আমাৰ স্কলাৰ আছে, চ' সেই স্কলাৰবিলাকে বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণে ইয়াতে আলোচনা কৰিছে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক লৈ। এটা উদ্যোগিক সমাজৰ উত্থানৰ সৈতে যুক্তিৰ বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ যুক্তি, কাৰিকৰী দক্ষতা আৰু যিখিনি মূল্যৱান আছে আৰু কৰ্তৃত্ব আছে বা নিয়মৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত যিখিনি আধুনিকতাৰ দ্বাৰা অনা পৰিৱৰ্তন, সেই সৈতে মিলাব পৰা এক কাৰ্যকৰী সংগঠন থকাৰ প্ৰয়োজন তেওঁলোকৰ আছিল। চ' ইয়াতে আমি বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ স্কলাৰ্ছ দেখিছোঁ, J.S. মিল, গিয়াৰ্ছ W.F. হেগেল, কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ ইত্যাদিৰ দৰে বহুতো চিন্তাবিদ আছিলে। তেওঁলোকে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বিষয়ে বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণে তেওঁলোকৰ চিন্তা চৰ্চা আগবঢ়াইছিলে আৰু চিন্তা চৰ্চা কৰিছিলে। অৱশ্যে মেক্স ৱেবাৰ যিটো পুঁজিবাদৰ পোহৰত তেওঁলোকে ইয়াৰ অৰ্থ বুজিবলৈ প্ৰণালীবদ্ধ প্ৰয়াস কৰিছিল। চ' বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ আমি ইয়াতে থিয়ৰী পাই আহিছোঁ বেলেগ বেলেগ স্কলাৰবিলাকৰ। সেই থিয়ৰীবিলাকৰ ভিতৰত যিটো আমাৰ মেক্স ৱেবাৰ থিয়ৰী, চ' মেক্স ৱেবাৰ থিয়ৰী তাত কি হয়, এই যিটো পুঁজিবাদ ধাৰণা বা যিটো আমোলাতন্ত্ৰিক যিটো ধাৰণা, সেই ধাৰণাটো এটা প্ৰণালীবদ্ধভাৱে তেওঁ অধ্যয়ন কৰিছিল, আৰু ইয়াৰ অৰ্থ বুজাবলৈ আমাৰ সমাজত বা প্ৰশাসনত প্ৰতিটো ক্ষেত্ৰতে ইয়াক প্ৰণালীবদ্ধভাৱে ষ্টাডি কৰিবলৈ তেওঁ প্ৰয়াস কৰিছিল। চ' তাৰপিছতে আমি ইয়াৰ বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ নেচাৰ্ছ বিষয়ে আমি দেখা পাম যে নেচাৰ বুলি ক'লেই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ শব্দটোৰ ইয়াতে চৰকাৰ আৰু যিখিনি চৰকাৰ আৰু ব্যৱসায়ক বহুলভাৱে ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হৈছে, মাৰ্কেট চিষ্টেম এণ্ড গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট বা ষ্টেট। চ' ইয়াতে ওতঃপ্ৰোতভাৱে জড়িত হৈ আছে বুলি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ শব্দটোৱে ক'ব বিচাৰিছে। আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ হৈছে প্ৰণালী য'ত কি হয়, এটা প্ৰশাসনক বা প্ৰশাসনিক প্ৰণালী বুলি ক'ব পাৰোঁ আমি, যাক বহুতো ব্যক্তিৰ কামৰ এটা প্ৰণালীবদ্ধ হিচাপে আমি তাক সমন্বয় কৰি এটা বৃহৎ পৰিমাণৰ প্ৰশাসনিক কাম সম্পাদন কৰাৰ বাবে প্ৰস্তুত কৰোঁ, য'ত মানে সকলো ধৰণৰ প্ৰশাসনিক কাম এটা বিশেষ ধৰণৰ উচ্চ পৰ্যায়ৰ বিষয়ালৈ বা টেলেণ্টেড কিছুমান ব্যক্তিৰ সমষ্টি, তেওঁলোকে মানে শীৰ্ষস্থানীয় ব্যক্তি বা মানে কাৰ্যকৰীভাৱে তেওঁলোকে সুযোগ্য, যিবিলাকে সকলো ধৰণৰ তেওঁলোকক পৰামৰ্শ দিব পাৰে বা সকলো ধৰণৰ প্ৰশাসনিক পৰামৰ্শ বা তেওঁলোকৰ বিধিবিলাক তেওঁলোকে দিব পাৰে। চ' চৰকাৰ এখন চলিবলৈ হ'লে বা গণতন্ত্ৰ বা যিকোনো এখন দেশ বা ৰাষ্ট্ৰ চলিবলৈ হ'লে কিদৰে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ শব্দটো আমি চৰকাৰ ব্যৱসায় এটা বহুলভাৱে ব্যৱহাৰ জড়িত কৰিছোঁ, তাক এটা আৰু প্ৰশাসনিক কাম কাজ সম্পাদন কৰাত কিদৰে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক আমি শব্দটো ইউজ কৰিছোঁ, সেই বিষয়ে এটা বিশেষভাৱে ধাৰণা আমি শৈক্ষিকভাৱে আমাৰ একাডেমিক পাৰ্টত আমি আমাৰ পাঠ্যপুথিত আমি পঢ়িবলৈ পাইছোঁ যে একাডেমিক হিচাপে আমি বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি কি হয় বা শৈক্ষিক অনুষ্ঠানত বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি কিদৰে প্ৰয়োজন হয় বা আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ প্ৰশাসনৰ উদ্দেশ্য এক নিৰ্দিষ্ট আৰ্হিৰ সামাজিক সংগঠন হিচাপে কেনেদৰে আগবাঢ়ি আহিছে তাৰ বিষয়ে বিভিন্ন সময়ত বিভিন্ন স্কলাৰে তেওঁলোকৰ মতামত আগবঢ়াইছে। চ' এটা শৈক্ষিক অনুসৰণ, চ' এটা মানে শৈক্ষিক অনুসৰণ বুলি ক'ব গ'লে আমি কি ক'ব লাগিব যে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ অধ্যয়নটোৱে মেক্স ৱেবাৰ, উইলছন, উইড্ৰ উইলছন আছিলে আমাৰ, লুথাৰ গুলিক আছিলে, FW টাইলৰ আদিৰ কামত এটা ইয়াৰ শিপা বিচাৰি পাইছিলে। চ' তেওঁলোকে কি হৈছিলে, প্ৰথমতে এইটো একাডেমিক পাৰ্চুৱেট হিচাপে তেওঁলোক নাছিলে। আফটাৰ এই স্কলাৰবিলাকে যেতিয়া অধ্যয়ন কৰিলে তেতিয়াহে আমি একাডেমিক পাৰ্চুৱেট আজি এইটো আমি পঢ়িবলৈ পাইছোঁ বা জানিবলৈ পাইছোঁ যে কিদৰে প্ৰশাসন এখন চলিবলৈ কেনেদৰে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ প্ৰয়োজন হয় বা আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক বিষয় ব্যৱহাৰৰ প্ৰয়োজন হয়, য'ত নেকি এখন দেশৰ সকলো নীতি বা চৰকাৰী নীতিবিলাক, যিখিনি আমাক পলিচিবিলাক, সেই পলিচিবিলাক ৰূপায়ণ কৰা হয়, প্ৰস্তুত কৰা হয়, তেনেদৰে কিছুমান প্ৰশাসনিক বিষয় আমাৰ অত্যন্ত প্ৰয়োজনীয়। আৰু সেইবিলাক প্ৰয়োজন হয় আমাৰ এই যিটো আমাৰ আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক যিটো ছিষ্টেম বা বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক যিটো ছিষ্টেম, সেই ছিষ্টেমত আমি ইয়াক ইউজ কৰি আছোঁ। চ' এজ এন একাডেমিক পাৰ্চুৱেট আমি অনুসৰণ হিচাপে এটা শৈক্ষিক অনুসৰণ হিচাপেও আমি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক ক'ব পাৰোঁ। কাৰণ ইয়াক বিভিন্ন সময়ত বিভিন্ন যিবিলাক আমাৰ স্কলাৰ আছে বেলেগ বেলেগ সময়ত বেলেগ বেলেগ দিশত ৰাষ্ট্ৰৰ হিতৰ বাবে বা আমাৰ সমাজৰ হিতৰ বাবে বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণে তেওঁলোকে অধ্যয়ন কৰি আহিছে। চ' ইয়াতে ক'ব গ'লে আমি মেয়াৰ আৰু ক্ৰাউচ বিচাৰি পাইছিল যে অনুসন্ধানৰ এটা শাৰী আছে আৰু সেই সাধাৰণীকৰণৰ যোগে তত্ত্বগত প্ৰিন্সিপাল কিছুমান বিকশিত হৈ থাকে। চ' প্ৰতিটো ক্ষেত্ৰতে কিছুমান তেওঁলোকে উৎস পাইছিলে। যেতিয়াই তেওঁলোকে অধ্যয়ন কৰিছিলে এটা শৈক্ষিকভাৱে, তাত প্ৰতিটো ক্ষেত্ৰতে তেওঁলোকে এটা উৎস বিচাৰি পাইছিলে আৰু সেই উৎসবিলাক পৰৱৰ্তী সময়ত আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক সংস্থাবোৰৰ কেনেকৈ আৰু কিয় তেওঁলোকে প্ৰয়োজন, কেনেকৈ এইবিলাক প্ৰয়োজন আৰু কিয় প্ৰয়োজন আৰু কেনেকৈ আমি আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক সংস্থাটোৰ জৰিয়তে এই প্ৰশাসনটো আমি কাৰ্যকৰীভাৱে বা সুচাৰুৰূপে পৰিচালনা কৰিব পাৰোঁ, সেই বিষয়ে তেওঁলোকে বেলেগ বেলেগ সময়ত এটা তত্ত্বগত অধ্যয়ন কৰিছিলে। চ' আমি সেই পাঠ্যক্ৰমত বিতংভাৱে ইয়াতে আলোচনা কৰা হৈছে। চ' মই ইয়াতে শ্বৰ্টলি ইয়াতে আপোনালোকক এতিয়া ক'ম যে ষ্টাৰ্টিঙত কি হৈছিলে, যিটো ছিষ্টেমেটিক তেওঁলোকে অনুসন্ধান কৰিছিলে যে প্ৰশ্নটোৰ চাৰিওফালে কি আছিল যে পুঁজিবাদী সমাজৰ বাবে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ কেনেদৰে পৰিচালনা কৰিব লাগে, চ' বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি কেনেদৰে পৰিচালনা কৰিব লাগে সেই বিষয়ে তেওঁলোকে এটা প্ৰশ্ন উত্থাপন কৰিছিলে। তাৰপিছতে যেতিয়া দ্বিতীয় যুদ্ধ হৈছিলে, সেই দ্বিতীয় যুদ্ধৰ পিছৰ সময়ছোৱাত আফটাৰ ছেকেণ্ড ৱৰ্ল্ড ৱাৰ কি হৈছিলে, যিখিনি গণতান্ত্ৰিক পৰিস্থিতি হৈছিলে তাত আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক সংস্থাবোৰৰ ভূমিকা আৰু অন্বেষণ কৰাটো মুখ্য চিন্তা হৈ পৰিছিলে। চ' ছেকেণ্ড ৱৰ্ল্ড ৱাৰৰ পিছৰ সময়ছোৱাত যিটো আমাৰ ডেম'ক্ৰেটিক ছিষ্টেম আছিলে সেই চিটুৱেশ্যনত সমাজত আমাৰ প্ৰশাসনত যিদৰে পৰিস্থিতিৰ উদ্ভৱ হৈছিলে, তাতে কি হয় আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক এই সংস্থাবোৰৰ ভূমিকা অতিকৈ গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ হৈ পৰিছিলে আৰু তেওঁলোকেই মুখ্য ভূমিকা পালন কৰিব লগা হৈছিলে। চ' এইদৰে তেওঁলোকে এটা এটা তত্ত্ব আগবঢ়াইছিলে যে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত সাহিত্য পৰীক্ষা কৰাটো বা যিখিনি আমি তত্ত্ব বা লিটাৰেচি পৰীক্ষা কৰিছোঁ, তাত জনপ্ৰশাসনৰ যিবিলাক স্কলাৰ আছিলে, পণ্ডিত আছিলে, ইয়াৰ প্ৰকৃতিৰ ওপৰত তেওঁলোকে দুটা দৃষ্টিভংগী বিশেষভাৱে তেওঁলোকে আলোচনা কৰিছে, যিটো আমি নেচাৰ বুলি পাইছোঁ, নেচাৰ অফ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি আমি পাইছোঁ। প্ৰথম দৃষ্টিভংগীটো হৈছে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক এক সঁজুলি বা ইয়াক এটা লক্ষ্যৰ দক্ষ ৰূপায়ণৰূপে তেওঁলোকে সৃষ্টি কৰিছিল। চ' প্ৰথম অৱস্থাত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ এক সঁজুলি বুলি তেওঁলোকে ল'ব বিচাৰিছিলে। চ' যিবিলাক স্কলাৰ আছিলে, স্কলাৰ বিষয়ে তেওঁলোকে বা পণ্ডিতসকলে প্ৰশাসনৰ জনপ্ৰশাসনত তেওঁলোকে কেনেদৰে চলিব লাগিব বা তেওঁলোকৰ যি দৃষ্টিভংগী, সেই দৃষ্টিভংগীত প্ৰথমতে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক এটা তেওঁলোকে অস্ত্ৰ হিচাপে লৈছিলে লক্ষ্যক ৰূপায়ণ কৰিবলৈ, যে যিখিনি প্ৰশাসনৰ আমাৰ লক্ষ্য আছে, কেনেদৰে আমি পলিচিবিলাক বা নীতিবিলাক আমি আগবঢ়াম বা প্ৰণয়ন কৰিম বা ৰূপায়ণ কৰিম। চ' সেইবিলাক প্ৰণালীবদ্ধভাৱে এটা স্বীকৃতি পাইছিলে থ্ৰু দিছ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিৰ জৰিয়তে তেওঁলোকে ছিষ্টেমেটিকেলি বস্তুবিলাক এটা স্বীকৃতি পাইছিলে। আৰু এই দৃষ্টিভংগী কি হৈছিলে, আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি যুক্তিকতা আছে, সেই যুক্তিকতাৰ প্ৰতীক হিচাপে তেওঁলোকে গণ্য কৰিছিলে। ইয়াতে তেওঁলোকে ক'ব বিচাৰিছে যে এটা ছিষ্টেমেটিক ষ্টাডি আমাৰ প্ৰয়োজন হৈছিলে সেইখিনি সময়ত আফটাৰ ছেকেণ্ড ৱৰ্ল্ড ৱাৰ, আমাৰ প্ৰশাসনখনৰ চলিবলৈ এটা চিষ্টেমেটিক ৱেৰ প্ৰয়োজন হৈছিলে আৰু এই চিষ্টেমেটিক ৱেটো অধিক ষ্ট্ৰং কৰিব হ'লে যিহেতু প্ৰশাসন অলৰেডি আছেই আমাৰ চৰকাৰ আছে সেইটোক আৰু ষ্ট্ৰং কৰিব হ'লে আমাৰ আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক বিষয়াৰ প্ৰয়োজন হ'ব আৰু এই আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক বিষয়াখিনি কি হ'ব গোটেই কাৰ্যখিনি বা তেওঁলোকে হ'ব শীৰ্ষ বিষয়া আটাইতকৈ চৰকাৰৰ বা দেশৰ শীৰ্ষ বিষয়া তেওঁলোকে গোটেই শাসনটো যাতে সুচাৰুৰূপে প্ৰণালীবদ্ধভাৱে অধ্যয়ন কৰিব পাৰে বা প্ৰণালীভাৱে কামখিনি ৰূপায়ণ কৰিব পাৰে দক্ষতাৰে সেইখিনিৰ ওপৰত বিশেষভাৱে তেওঁলোকে স্বীকৃতি পাইছিলে আৰু এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ যিটো যৌক্তিকতা সেই যৌক্তিকতাৰ এটা প্ৰতীক হিচাপে তেওঁলোকে গণ্য কৰিছিলে আৰু কি হৈছিলে যিখিনি ৰাজহুৱা প্ৰশাসনৰ এটা অস্ত্ৰ হিচাপে যিহেতু লোৱা হৈছিলে যি সেৱাৰ ব্যৱস্থাত বিশেষজ্ঞ যিটো সদায় আমাৰ ছ'চিয়েল ছাৰ্ভিচ কৰিবলৈ সদায় নাগৰিকক সেৱা আগবঢ়োৱাৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত বা তেওঁলোকক যিখিনি আমি সেৱা প্ৰদান কৰিব লাগে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই যিখিনি তেওঁলোকক সা সুবিধা দিব লাগে আধাৰ কাৰ্ড হওক পানী যোগান ৱাটাৰ ছাপ্লাই ইলেক্ট্ৰিচিটি বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ বস্তু আছে আঁচনি আছে সেই গোটেইবিলাকৰ ওপৰত তেওঁলোকক নাগৰিকক এটা সেৱা আগবঢ়াব লাগে আৰু এই সেৱাটোৰ আমি যদি আমাৰ দ্বিখণ্ডিত হয় বা মিছপ্লেচ হয় তেতিয়া মেইন অস্ত্ৰটো হৈছে ৰাজহুৱা প্ৰশাসনৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি ইয়াৰ জৰিয়তে আমি সেই গোটেইখিনি সা সুবিধা বা সেই সেৱাবিলাক সম্পাদন কৰিব পাৰোঁ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ জৰিয়তে ইয়াত কি হয় যিজন যোগ্য কৰ্মচাৰী এটা তেওঁলোকৰ কেডাৰ আছে আৰু যাক আইনৰ শাখাৰ দ্বাৰা নিৰ্ধাৰিত পদৰ বাবে নিযুক্তি কৰা হয় প্ৰতিটো ক্ষেত্ৰত বেলেগ বেলেগ নিযুক্তি দিয়া হয় বা কৰ্মচাৰী নিযুক্তি দিয়া হয় আৰু যাক আইনৰ শাসনৰ দ্বাৰা নিৰ্ধাৰিত পদৰ বাবে নিযুক্তি দিয়া হৈছে দ্বিতীয়তে আৰু এটা দৃষ্টিভংগী তেওঁলোকে ইয়াতে নেচাৰৰ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচি হিচাপে তেওঁলোকে মত পোষণ কৰিছিলে এই দৃষ্টিভংগীটো মুখ্যতঃ ইয়াৰ সদস্য বা যিবিলাক তেওঁলোকৰ নাগৰিক আছে সেই নাগৰিকসকলৰ ওপৰত নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ প্ৰয়োগ কৰাৰ ক্ষমতাৰ এক সঁজুলি বুলি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক তেওঁলোকে অন্বেষণ কৰিছিলে যিহেতু নাগৰিকসকলক বেলেগ বেলেগ এটা ছ'চাইটিত থাকে তেওঁলোকক বা আমাৰ সমাজখনক নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ কৰিবলৈ প্ৰথম সঁজুলিটো হৈছে আমাৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই যদি ষ্ট্ৰং হয় আমাৰ সমাজখনো সুচাৰুৰূপে নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ হ'ব বুলি আমি ক'ব পাৰোঁ ইয়াৰ পৰা আমি ক'ব পাৰোঁ যে আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক যিখিনি প্ৰণালী আছে সেই প্ৰণালীবিলাকৰ স্বাৰ্থত বা যিকোনো নিহিত স্বাৰ্থৰ পক্ষত গোটেইখিনি এটা সামঞ্জস্য আমাৰ সমাজৰ লগত বা চৰকাৰৰ লগত বা আমাৰ প্ৰতিটো ক্ষেত্ৰতে আমাৰ নাগৰিকৰ মানে সুচাৰুৰূপে চলিবলৈ আমাৰ সম্পৰ্কিত হৈ আছে দৰাচলতে কি হ'ল দ্বিতীয় যিখিনি দৃষ্টিভংগী আছে সেই ছেকেণ্ড দৃষ্টিভংগীটোত যিটো আমাৰ আছে যে নাগৰিকৰ ওপৰত নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ কৰাৰ প্ৰয়োগ আছে কৰাৰ ক্ষমতা এই নাগৰিকৰ ওপৰত নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ কৰাৰ যিটো ক্ষমতা সেই ক্ষমতা দৃষ্টিভংগীটো এই আমোলাসকলৰ বা যিখিনি আমোলাসকলৰ মিনছ তেওঁলোকৰ যিবিলাক বিষয়া আছে সেই আমোলা বিষয়াসকলৰ প্ৰক্ৰিয়াটো বা তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি ছিষ্টেম আছে সেইটো এটা তেওঁলোকে বেলেগ ধৰণে আগবঢ়াই নিব বিচাৰিছিলে যিহেতু তেওঁলোকে সেই দৃষ্টিভংগী বিবেচনা কৰাৰ যোগ্য আৰু সেইটো নিৰ্ধাৰণ কৰাত তেওঁলোকে কোনো ধৰণৰ সমস্যা নাই যেন ভাবিছিলে তেওঁলোকে যিখিনি কণ্ট্ৰল কৰিছিলে এখন ছ'চাইটি বা দেশ এখনক কেনেদৰে কণ্ট্ৰল কৰিব লাগে প্ৰতিটো ক্ষেত্ৰতে এভৰি ছেক্টৰ সেই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই সেইখিনি তেওঁলোকে এটা দৃষ্টিভংগী নিম্ন পৰ্যায়ত বা আন বিষয়াসকলক তেওঁলোকে বিবেচনা কৰিছিলে আৰু যোগ্য সেই যিখিনি তেওঁলোকে নীতি নিৰ্ধাৰণ কৰিছিলে সেই নীতি নিৰ্ধাৰণবিলাকৰ জৰিয়তে যিকোনো ধৰণৰ সমস্যা ছ'চাইটিৰ বা আমাৰ নাগৰিকসকলৰ বেলেগ বেলেগ ক্ষেত্ৰত বহুতো সমস্যা থাকে সেই সমস্যাবিলাক কেনেদৰে সমাধান কৰিব পাৰি তাৰ এটা বিশেষ অস্ত্ৰ হিচাপে আমি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক আমি ল'ব পাৰোঁ আৰু ইয়াৰ পৰিৱৰ্তে কি হৈছিলে সংগঠনবোৰত এই আমোলাকৰণৰ দৰে অন্তৰ্নিহিত যিখিনি প্ৰৱণতা আছে সেই প্ৰৱণতাবিলাক কি পৰিস্থিতিত প্ৰকট হৈছিলে আৰু তাক চিনাক্ত কৰাৰ ওপৰত কেনেদৰে গুৰুত্ব আৰু সেইবিলাক কেনেকুৱা দেখিবলৈ কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ হ'ব পাৰে বা কেনেধৰণে সেই পৰিস্থিতিত এই প্ৰৱণতাবোৰ গঠন হ'ব পাৰে সেইবিলাকৰ ওপৰত বিশেষভাৱে এটা তত্ত্বগত অধ্যয়ন কৰিছিলে যিটো সাংগঠনিক দিশ আছিলে আৰু এটা অৰ্গেনাইজেশ্যনেল যিটো কনচেপ্ট আছিলে এম্পেৰিকেল এটা অধ্যয়ন হৈছিলে আৰু সেই অধ্যয়নৰ ওপৰত আধাৰিত কৰি এণ্ডলাৰ নামৰ এজন স্কলাৰ আছিলে তেওঁ যিটো ইতিবাচক দৃষ্টিভংগী সেই দৃষ্টিভংগী তেওঁ প্ৰকাশ কৰিছিলে আৰু নেতিবাচক দৃষ্টিভংগীৰ ওপৰত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ যিটো এটিটিউডনেল ফলাফল তাৰ এটা দ্বন্দ্বপূৰ্ণ দৃষ্টিভংগী তেওঁ উপস্থাপন কৰিছিলে। এই দৃষ্টিভংগী অনুসৰি যিখিনি আমাৰ এডিকুৱেট গাইডেন্স প্ৰদান কৰা হয় আৰু তাক কৰ্মচাৰীসকলক যিহেতু চাকৰিৰ দায়িত্ব স্পষ্ট কৰা হয় আৰু ফলস্বৰূপে তেওঁলোকক কি হয় নিৰ্দিষ্ট বেলেগ বেলেগ ভূমিকাৰ চাপ হ্ৰাস কৰে আৰু ব্যক্তিসকলক সমৰ্থন কৰে আৰু কি হৈছে সাংগঠনিক যিটো তেওঁলোকৰ ছিষ্টেম আছে বা ছেটিং আছে তাক অধিক মানে ইফেক্টিভ কৰিবৰ কাৰণে তেওঁলোকে অনুভৱ কৰে নিজে নিজে অনুভৱ কৰে যিহেতু গোটেইখিনি প্ৰণালী তেওঁলোকেই কৰিব লাগিব বা যিটো কাৰ্যকৰী পাৰ্ট হয় কাৰ্যকৰী পাৰ্টটো তেওঁলোকেই চাব লাগিব চ' তেওঁলোকে সেইটো ক্ষেত্ৰত বিশেষ এটা ষ্ট্ৰং পদক্ষেপ তেওঁলোকে ল'বলৈ আগবাঢ়িছিল আৰু এই যিটো নেতিবাচক দৃষ্টিভংগী অনুসৰি ইয়াত তেওঁলোকে কৈছে যে সংগঠনবিলাকৰ যিটো আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক প্ৰকাৰে ইয়াৰ কঠোৰ যিবিলাক কাৰ্যকলাপ সেই কাৰ্যকলাপৰ বাবে সৃষ্টিশীলতাৰ বাতিল কৰে আৰু যি অৱশেষত কৰ্মচাৰীজনক অসন্তুষ্ট আৰু অনুপ্ৰেৰিত কৰাত অনুভৱ কৰে চ' কেতিয়াবা কি হয় যিটো নেতিবাচক দৃষ্টিভংগীত তেওঁ কৈছে যে সংগঠনবিলাকক যিখিনি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ কাৰ্যকলাপ সেইবিলাক কেতিয়াবা অধিক কঠোৰ হোৱাৰ বাবে কেতিয়াবা যিখিনি ক্ৰিয়েটিভিটি থাকে সেইখিনি বাতিল কৰে আৰু কৰ্মচাৰীজনক কেতিয়াবা তেওঁলোক ডিছছেটিছফেকশ্যন বা ডিমটিভেশ্যন হোৱাও আমি দেখা পাওঁ যদিও মানে তেওঁ সেই আগৰ আমাৰ ইতিবাচক চিন্তাটো আমাৰ কৰ্মচাৰীজনৰ মনত ৰাখে যে সাংগঠনিক লক্ষ্য প্ৰাপ্ত কৰাৰ বাবে অত্যাৱশ্যকীয় হোৱাৰ বাবে পিছলৈ তেওঁলোকে কৰ্মচাৰীৰ প্ৰতি যিখিনি পাৱাৰ বা তেওঁলোকে পানিছমেণ্ট ব্যৱহাৰ কৰে তেনেকুৱা এটা মনোভাৱ তেওঁলোকে পোষণ কৰিছিল চ' ইয়াত বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্ৰত তেওঁলোকে তেওঁলোকৰ মতবিলাক আগবঢ়াইছিল নেচাৰ অফ বিউৰক্ৰেচি চ' ইয়াত পাব্লিক এডমিনিষ্ট্ৰেশ্যনৰ স্কলাৰ্ছত যিটো এক্সামাইন কৰিছে তেওঁলোকৰ লিটাৰেচি অন বিউৰক্ৰেচি ফাইন 2 points of view in its nature. The first viewpoint is recognize bureaucracy as an instrument or mechanism that is created for efficient implementation of goals. এইখিনি ফাৰ্ষ্ট আছিলে তাৰপিছত ছেকেণ্ডটো আছিলে দ্য ছেকেণ্ড ভিউ পইণ্ট এক্সপ্ল'ৰ্ছ বিউৰক্ৰেচি মেইনলি এজ এন ইনষ্ট্ৰুমেণ্ট অফ পাৱাৰ to exert control over the members of the citizens either in the interest of the bureaucracy system or in favor of any vested interest. So এইখিনি বস্তু তেওঁলোকে নেচাৰত আমাৰ পাঠ্যপুথিত সন্নিৱিষ্ট কৰিছে তাৰপিছতে আমি পাম ইয়াতে যিখিনি প্ৰি ৱেবাৰিয়ান বিউৰক্ৰেটিক নেৰেটিভছ চ' প্ৰি ৱেবাৰিয়ান নেৰেটিভছ আমাক আফটাৰ বিফ'ৰ মেক্স ৱেবাৰে আছিলে প্ৰথমজন বিজ্ঞান দাৰ্শনিক যিয়ে আমাৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক বিজ্ঞানসন্মত আৰ্হিৰে এটা প্ৰণালীবদ্ধভাৱে তেওঁ বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ তেওঁ ব্যাখ্যা আগবঢ়াইছিলে আৰু তেওঁ ষ্টাডি কৰিছিলে সেই বিষয়ে আমি পাছৰ পৰ্যায়ত আমি আলোচনা কৰিম চ' ৰাজহুৱা প্ৰশাসনত যিখিনি সাহিত্যত প্ৰায় উল্লেখ কৰা হৈছে যে মেক্স ৱেবাৰ যিখিনি আধুনিক আৰু আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ আটাইতকৈ গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ চিন্তাবিদ আৰু যিখিনি আমাৰ মডাৰ্ণ বিউৰক্ৰেচি আছে সেই মডাৰ্ণ বিউৰক্ৰেচিক মেক্স ৱেবাৰক এজন গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ চিন্তাবিদ হিচাপে আমি লৈছোঁ কিয়নো এইটো মন কৰিব লাগিব যে মেক্স ৱেবাৰৰ আগতে জে.এছ. মিল G.W.F. হেগেল কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ আদিৰ দৰে বহুতো পণ্ডিত আছিল কোনো আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত ব্যাপক আলোচনা নিৰ্ধাৰণ কৰিছিল চ' এই গোটেইবিলাকে তেওঁলোকে এটা ব্যাপক আলোচনা বা মই যিহেতু আগতে কৈ আছোঁ যে তত্ত্বমূলক যিটো আলোচনা তত্ত্বমূলক ব্যাখ্যা তেওঁলোকে ষ্টেপ বাই ষ্টেপ ষ্টাডি কৰি আহিছে ফ্ৰম 18th century চ' তেওঁ M.D. গৰ্ণেৰ পৰা সেইটো ষ্টাৰ্ট হোৱাৰ পৰা লাহে লাহে কেইবাজনো তেওঁ স্কলাৰে ইয়াৰ বিষয়ে তত্ত্বগতভাৱে আলোচনা আগবঢ়াই আহিছে আৰু ব্যাপকভাৱে সেইবিলাক আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত আমি ষ্টাডি কৰিব পাৰিছোঁ চ' এজ এ একাডেমিক আমি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ইয়াৰ ব্যাপক ৰূপ এটা বা এটা বিস্তৃত ৰূপ এটা আমি দেখিবলৈ পাইছোঁ এই চিন্তাবিদসকলৰ জৰিয়তে মেক্স ৱেবাৰ G.S.W. হেগেল কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ জে.এছ. মিল এনেধৰণৰ বিভিন্ন শীৰ্ষ চিন্তাবিদসকলে তেওঁলোকৰ বিভিন্ন মতামত আমাৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক লৈ সময়ে সময়ে আগবঢ়াইছে চ' প্ৰথমে আমাৰ পাঠ্যপুথিত আছে জে.এছ. মিলছ কণ্ট্ৰিবিউশ্যন অন বিউৰক্ৰেচি চ' জে.এছ. মিল কণ্ট্ৰিবিউশ্যন অন বিউৰক্ৰেচি আমাৰ বুকুত সন্নিৱিষ্ট হৈ আছে চ' কনচিডাৰেশ্যন অন ৰিপ্ৰেজেণ্টেটিভ গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট ইন 1861 চ' তেওঁৰ এটা ৰাইটিংছ আছিলে যে consideration on representative government was written about half a century before Weber's publication on bureaucracy. চ' ৱেবাৰ যিটো আমাৰ ষ্টাডি আছিলে বহুত পাছত আহিছে। তেওঁ এটা বৈজ্ঞানিকভাৱে বা প্ৰণালীবদ্ধভাৱে বেলেগ ধৰণে অধ্যয়ন কৰিছিলে। তাৰ আগতে জেছ মিলৰ বিষয়ে আমি ক'ব পাৰিম যে তেওঁ এই বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিক ওপৰত এটা বিবেচনা বা আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত ৱেবাৰৰ যিখিনি ভাৱধাৰা সেই শতিকাৰ আগতেই লিখা কিছুমান পুথি সন্নিৱিষ্ট কৰিছিলে। কনচিডাৰেশ্যন অন ৰিপ্ৰেজেণ্টেটিভ গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট 1861। তাতে কি হৈছিলে সেইখিনি সময়ত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ শব্দটোৱে চৰকাৰৰ যিখিনি প্ৰত্যক্ষ সেই প্ৰত্যক্ষ কামবিলাক বুজাইছিলে। আৰু কেতিয়াবা তেওঁ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক যিখিনি প্ৰকৃত ৰাজ্যপাল বুলি তেওঁ উল্লেখ কৰিছিলে। জেছ মিলৰ মতে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ অৰ্থ স্পষ্ট কৰে যে কিয়নো আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ সাৰাংশ আৰু যিখিনি ইয়াৰ অৰ্থ আছিলে তাৰে তেওঁলোকে কিছুমান সঁচা বা মিছা তাৰ ওপৰত তেওঁলোকে এটা সাৰাংশ ক্ৰিয়েট কৰিছিলে। আৰু যেতিয়া চৰকাৰৰ কামবিলাক বা কামত পিছত ৰাজ্যপালৰ সকলো ধৰণৰ হস্তক্ষেপ থাকে বা তেওঁৱে গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ বুলি তেওঁ ক'ব বিচাৰিছিলে বা সকলো ধৰণৰ কাম কাজ বা পেচাত ৰাজ্যপালসকলৰ হাতত থাকে। যিজন আছিলে গভৰ্ণৰ, চ' গভৰ্ণৰ আণ্ডাৰত তেওঁলোকে কামবিলাক গোটেইখিনি নিহিত হৈ থাকে বুলি তেওঁ ক'বলৈ বিচাৰিছিলে। নিযুক্তিৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত জেছ মিলে প্ৰাৰ্থীসকলৰ বুদ্ধিমত্তা, শিক্ষা আৰু যিখিনি সাম্ভাৱ্য যিখিনি দক্ষতা আছে সেইখিনিৰ ওপৰত ক'ত পৰীক্ষা কৰিব পাৰি তাৰ ওপৰত আধাৰিত কৰি নিযুক্তি ল'বলৈ তেওঁলোকে পচন্দ কৰিছিলে। একৰ্ডিং টু জেছ মিল তেওঁলোকে এই বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিৰ জৰিয়তে ইন টাৰ্মছ অফ ৰিক্ৰুইটমেণ্ট মিল প্ৰিফাৰ্ছ টু হেভ ৰিক্ৰুইটমেণ্ট বেছড অন মেৰিট। চ' মেৰিট যিটোক আমি দক্ষতা বুলি কওঁ, ফৰ এটা কেণ্ডিডেট ইণ্টেলিজেঞ্চ, এডুকেশ্যন, পটেঞ্চিয়েল অফ গভৰ্ণমেণ্ট স্কিলছ কুড বি টেষ্টেড। চ' গোটেইখিনি তেওঁ সেইখিনি সময়ত টেষ্ট কৰি তেওঁক নিৰ্বাচন কৰা হৈছিলে বা নিযুক্তি দিয়া হৈছিলে। আমোলাতন্ত্ৰত কি হয়, যিবিলাক বিষয়া থাকে সেই বিষয়াবিলাকক অত্যাধিক তেওঁলোকে সকলো ক্ষেত্ৰত দে আৰ দ্য স্কিল পিপল। ত' স্কিল এক্সপাৰ্ট, যিহেতু এজন এক্সপাৰ্ট হ'ব লাগিব তেতিয়াহে এজন প্ৰশাসনিক বিষয়া হ'ব লাগিব। উইদাউট এক্সপাৰ্টাইজ বা যিকোনো সকলো বিষয়তে বা সমাজৰ সকলো ক্ষেত্ৰতে সকলো এৰিয়াতে তেওঁ এজন এক্সপাৰ্ট হ'ব লাগিব। ইকনমিকেলি, পলিটিকেলি বা বেলেগ বেলেগ ক্ষেত্ৰত যিকোনো ক্ষেত্ৰতে হওক তেওঁ এজন এক্সপাৰ্ট হ'ব লাগিব। আৰু তেওঁ সেই পটেঞ্চিয়েল যিজন আমোলাতন্ত্ৰিক বিষয়া হ'ব লাগিব তেওঁ এই সকলো ধৰণৰ গভৰ্ণমেণ্টেল যিবিলাক স্কিল আছে সেই স্কিলবিলাক সমাধান কৰিবলৈ বা জানিবলৈ এটা পটেঞ্চিয়েল পাৰ্চন হ'ব লাগিব। চ' এইখিনিৰ বিষয়ে আমি ক'ব পাৰিম যে যিখিনি বিউৰ'ক্ৰেটিক আমাৰ চিষ্টেম আছে তাত পাব্লিক ছাৰ্ভিচ যিটো আমি পাৰ্ট কওঁ, citing bureaucracy as the permanent strength of public service and the bureaucratic function as highly professional in nature. So according to Mill তেওঁ এইখিনি ক'ব বিচাৰিছিলে। য'ত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক ৰাজহুৱা সেৱাৰ পৰমান্য স্তৰ বুলি তেওঁ উল্লেখ কৰি আৰু আমোলাতন্ত্ৰিক কাৰ্যকলাপবোৰক প্ৰকৃতত তেওঁ অত্যন্ত পেচাদাৰী হিচাপে উল্লেখ কৰিছিলে। তাৰপিছত জেছ মিল আৰু তাৰপিছতে তেওঁ বিভিন্ন ধৰণৰ যিখিনি আন বিষয় আছে সেইবিলাক ৰিকমেণ্ডছ আৰু শ্ৰেষ্ঠ বিষয়াৰ যিখিনি বাছনি কৰিব লাগে সেইখিনিৰ ওপৰত তেওঁ পৰীক্ষা আৰু যিখিনি তেওঁলোকৰ প্ৰমোশ্যন হ'ব লাগে বা পদোন্নতি হ'ব লাগে বা তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি অৰ্ডাৰ থাকে তাতে এপ্ৰপ্ৰিয়েট কিছুমান ব্যৱস্থা ল'বৰ বাবে তেওঁ আৰু সেই ব্যৱসায়বিলাকৰ যিখিনি সুবিধাজনক লেনদেন আছে তাতে এটা ভাল ৰেকৰ্ড ৰখা আৰু দায়িত্ববোধতাৰ বাবে সঠিক ব্যৱস্থা লোৱা এইখিনিৰ ওপৰতো গুৰুত্ব দিছিলে। তাৰপিছতে কি হৈছে যিখিনি ইয়াৰ প্ৰতিনিধি আছিল সেই প্ৰতিনিধি চৰকাৰ আৰু আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ মাজৰ সম্পৰ্ক এটা অন্বেষণ কৰোঁতে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই বিশেষভাৱে আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক যিখিনি নীতি সেই নীতিৰ প্ৰক্ৰিয়াৰ পৰা তেওঁ পৃথক কৰা নাছিলে। তেওঁ সকলোখিনি মিলাই এটা নিৰ্দিষ্ট ভাৱে তেওঁ যিখিনি চিষ্টেম সেই চিষ্টেমত চলি গৈছিলে। আৰু যিখিনি আমাৰ চিলেকশ্যন প্ৰচেছ সেই চিলেক্টিং দ্য বেষ্ট অফিচাৰ্ছ কেনেকৈ চিলেক্ট কৰিব, rules for promotions, appropriate provisions for orders and convenient transaction of business, আৰু এটা good record keeping and proper measure for responsibility and accountability. চ' গোটেইখিনি তেওঁ ষ্টেপ বাই ষ্টেপ এটা ভিউজ কনচিডাৰেশ্যন তেওঁ বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিক লৈ আগবঢ়াইছিলে। কিন্তু ইয়াক কি হৈছে অভিজ্ঞতা, দক্ষতা আৰু যিখিনি নলেজ আছে সেই নলেজ প্ৰতিষ্ঠান হিচাপে গণ্য কৰা হৈছে। এই গোটেইখিনিৰ উপৰিও বিউৰ'ক্ৰেচিক এটা অভিজ্ঞতা, দক্ষতা আৰু নলেজ প্ৰতিষ্ঠান হিচাপে গণ্য কৰা হৈছে। অৱশ্যে জেছ মিলে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ যিখিনি ক্ষমা ব্যক্তি আছে, সেই ব্যক্তিবিলাকে ক্ষমতাৰ যাতে অপব্যৱহাৰ আৰু মানৱ সৃজনীশীলতাৰ সীমাবদ্ধতা চিনাক্ত কৰিছিল। চ' যিখিনি তেওঁলোকৰ পাৱাৰ আছে, পাৱাৰবিলাকৰ এটা লিমিটেশ্যন আছে, বা পাৱাৰবিলাক যাতে কেতিয়াও বেয়া ক্ষেত্ৰত ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিব নোৱাৰে বা অপব্যৱহাৰ কৰিব নোৱাৰে, সেইখিনিৰ ওপৰতো এটা সীমাবদ্ধতা চিনাক্তকৰণ কৰিছিল। চ' জেমছ মিলে যিখিনি কৰিছিলে, তেওঁৰ দৃষ্টিভংগীত বা তেওঁৰ দৃষ্টিত যিখিনি আমাৰ কৰাপশ্যন বুলি কওঁ, দুৰ্নীতি, সেই দুৰ্নীতিত নিয়োজিত প্ৰশাসকসকলক ৰাজনৈতিক কাৰ্যবাহী আৰু নিৰ্বাচিত সদস্যসকলে তেওঁক আঁতৰাবৰ বাবে বা আঁতৰাব পাৰে, কিয়নো তেওঁলোকৰ বাবে দায়বদ্ধ আৰু প্ৰশাসকৰ কাম পৰীক্ষা কৰে। চ' ছাপ'জ কোনোবা এজন প্ৰশাসকে দুৰ্নীতিত লিপ্ত হৈছে, সেই দুৰ্নীতিত লিপ্ত বিষয়াক যোনে নিৰ্বাচিত কৰিছিল, সেই নিৰ্বাচিত সদস্যসকলে তেওঁক যদি প্ৰশাসনৰ বিৰুদ্ধে যায় বা বিৰুদ্ধে তেওঁলোকে কামবিলাক কৰে বা তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি ক্ষমতা আছে, ক্ষমতাৰ বাহিৰত তেওঁলোকৰ ক্ষমতাৰ যদি অপব্যৱহাৰ কৰে, তেওঁলোকক সেই পদৰ পৰা আঁতৰাব পাৰে, বা কিয়নো তেওঁলোক সেইটো কামৰ বাবে দায়বদ্ধ হৈ থাকে। চ' প্ৰশাসকসকলক যিবিলাক কাম আছে, সেই কাম কাজৰ পৰীক্ষা কৰাও এটা ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচি মেইন উদ্দেশ্য হৈ পৰিছে। যদিহে এই দিনবোৰত সেইবিলাকত কেতিয়াবা এজন আমোলা বিষয়াক নৈতিক ভিত্তিত পদৰ পৰা আঁতৰাই দিয়া নহয়, চ' তেওঁলোকে কি হয়, সেই যিখিনি কাম আছে, সেই কাম কাজবিলাক বা সেই দায়বদ্ধতা যিবিলাক আছে, সেইবিলাকৰ পৰা তেওঁলোকে বিফলে যাব যদি আঁতৰি দিয়া নহয়। চ' এই পজিটিভিষ্ট দৃষ্টিভংগীৰ বিপৰীতে জেমছ মিলে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক মূল্যমুক্ত সত্তা হিচাপে বিবেচনা কৰা নাছিল, বৰঞ্চ পক্ষপাতিত্বমূলক ৰাজনীতিত এক নিৰপেক্ষ সত্তা হিচাপে ইয়াৰ ভূমিকা বিবেচনা কৰিছিল। চ' বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্ৰত ইয়াৰ আমি নিৰপেক্ষ যিখিনি সত্তা, সেই সত্তাখিনি তেওঁলোকে ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচিত একৰ্ডিং টু জেমছ মিল ইয়াক নিৰপেক্ষ সত্তা হিচাপে ইয়াৰ ভূমিকা বিবেচনা কৰিছিল। জেমছ মিলে কি হৈছে, যিখিনি আমাৰ ষ্টেটৰ আছে বা ৰাজ্যসমূহৰ যিটো ডেভেলপমেণ্ট আৰু নাগৰিকৰ যিটো ডেভেলপমেণ্ট, ৰাষ্ট্ৰৰ বিকাশ আৰু নাগৰিকৰ বিকাশত এই ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচিৰ বাবে এক সাম্ভাৱ্য ভূমিকা চিনাক্ত কৰিছিল, যে কেনেদৰে এজন দায়বদ্ধ ব্যক্তি হ'ব পাৰে দেশৰ বাবে, চৰকাৰৰ বাবে, নাগৰিকৰ বাবে। এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বাবে সাম্ভাৱ্য ভূমিকা চিনাক্ত কৰিছিল। নাগৰিক এজনৰ বা নাগৰিকসকলৰ বিকাশত বা তেওঁলোকৰ ডেভেলপমেণ্টত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ভূমিকা কেনেদৰে গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ, সেই গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ বিষয়টো তেওঁ চিনাক্ত কৰিছিলে। তেওঁৰ যিবিলাক কাম আছিলে, সেই কামত বহুতো অংশীদাৰ দৃষ্টিভংগী প্ৰয়োগ কৰি শাসন প্ৰয়োগ কৰাৰ লগতে এনে ক্ষেত্ৰত গণতান্ত্ৰিক যিখিনি মনোভাৱ আছিলে, সেই মনোভাৱবিলাক তেওঁলোকে এটা গণতান্ত্ৰিক চিন্তাধাৰা বা যিখিনি আমাৰ ৰাষ্ট্ৰৰ প্ৰতি অনুগত্য এটা চিন্তাধাৰা, সেই চিন্তাধাৰা আনিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰিছিল। আৰু প্ৰতিটো ক্ষেত্ৰতে কি হয়, আটাইতকৈ যিজন দক্ষ ব্যক্তি হয় বা শিক্ষিত ব্যক্তি হয়, অভিজ্ঞ নাগৰিকসকলক অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত কৰা হৈছিলে। চ' ইয়াতো আমাৰ হয়, যিখিনি যোগ্যতা লাগিব, সেই যোগ্যতা নহ'লে আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক বিষয় বা আমোলা হোৱাৰ কোনো ক্ষেত্ৰতেই আমাৰ কথা নাথাকে। চ' এজন যোগ্য ব্যক্তি, দক্ষ ব্যক্তি, শিক্ষিত ব্যক্তি, সকলো ক্ষেত্ৰতে এক্সপাৰ্ট ব্যক্তি এজনেহে মানে এই ভূমিকা পালন কৰিব পাৰিব। সেইখিনিৰ ওপৰত আমি বিশেষভাৱে বা তেনেধৰণৰ নাগৰিকসকলক বিশেষভাৱে অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত কৰা হৈছিল এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰত। আৰু এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত বেলেগ বেলেগ যিখিনি দৃষ্টিভংগী, সেই দৃষ্টিভংগীত এক সাম্ভাৱ্য ভূমিকা চিনাক্ত কৰিছিল, য'ত ৰাজ্যসমূহৰ বা দেশৰ যিখিনি ডেভেলপমেণ্ট, ৰাষ্ট্ৰৰ প্ৰগতি হ'ব পাৰে আৰু নাগৰিকৰ প্ৰগতিত পথ আৰু উন্নত হ'ব পাৰে, সেই বিষয়ে তেওঁলোকে এটা গণতান্ত্ৰিক মনোভাৱ আনিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰিছিল। তাৰপিছত আমি ক'ব পাৰোঁ একৰ্ডিং টু জেমছ মিল আমি ক'লোঁ কণ্ট্ৰিবিউশ্যন অফ ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচি। চ' তেওঁ সেইদৰে আমাৰ ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচিক পাৰ্টটো আমাক অধ্যয়ন কৰিছিলে, আৰু এজ এ একাডেমিক পাৰ্চুইট আমি তেওঁৰ পৰা সেইখিনি বিষয়বস্তু জানিব পাৰিলোঁ, কিদৰে এজন দক্ষ বিষয়া আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক প্ৰয়োজন হয়, বা দক্ষ বিষয়া কেনেদৰে নিজৰ কাৰ্যভাৰ বা কাৰ্যপদ্ধতি গ্ৰহণ কৰে, সেই গোটেইখিনি আমি তেওঁৰ পৰা আমি জানিব পাৰিলোঁ একৰ্ডিং টু জেমছ মিল। তাৰপিছতে আমি হেগেলৰ পাৰ্চপেক্টিভ অন ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচি, JW ফ্ৰেডৰিচ হেগেল। তেওঁৰ ফুল নেমটো হৈছে JW ফ্ৰেডৰিচ হেগেল। চ' তেওঁৰ যিখিনি চিন্তাধাৰা বা তেওঁৰ যিখিনি ইনফ্লুৱেঞ্চ আছিলে, সেইখিনি আমি একনলেজ ব্যুৰ'ক্ৰেচি কেনেদৰে তেওঁ একনলেজ কৰিছে in governing organization in the modern state. So ইয়াৰ বিষয়ে তেওঁ নিজৰ philosophy আগবঢ়াইছে. One of the influence thinker who acknowledged bureaucracy as the main governing organization in the modern state was G.W. Friedrich Hegel. So, in his philosophy of right, published in 1821, so তেওঁ লিখিছিলে এইখিনি বস্তু. He deliberates about how liberal state can be organized and endorsed the role of the civil service as an essential element of government. So, civil service কিদৰে এটা essential government হয় তেওঁ বিশেষভাৱে আমাক তেওঁৰ ৰাইটিঙত লিপিবদ্ধ কৰিছে 1821ত the English philosophy of right নামৰ বুকখনত. So, আধুনিক যিখিনি ৰাজ্য ব্যৱস্থা আছে আধুনিক ৰাজ্যৰ মুখ্য পৰিচালনা সংগঠন হিচাপে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক স্বীকাৰ কৰা হৈছে. ৰাজ্যখনৰ পৰিচালনাৰ মুখ্য সংগঠন হৈছে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ. So, তেওঁ এইটো আমাক এটা ভিউজ তেওঁ আগবঢ়াইছিলে যে এখন চৰকাৰ বা ৰাজ্য বা এখন দেশৰ পৰিচালনা কৰিবলৈ এটা মুখ্য সংগঠন হৈছে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ. আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক স্বীকাৰ কৰা এজন প্ৰভাৱশালী চিন্তাবিদ আছিল G.W. ফ্ৰিডৰিচ হেগেল. চ' তেওঁ এইখিনি বিশেষভাৱে আলোচনা কৰিছিল আৰু তেওঁৰ ফিলচফি মতে তেওঁ যিখিনি আমাৰ চিভিল ছাৰ্ভিচ বিষয়া আছে সেই চিভিল ছাৰ্ভিচ বিষয়াসকলে কিদৰে তেওঁলোকৰ ৰুলবিলাক শাসন পৰিচালনা কৰিবলৈ পৰিচালনা কৰে সেইবিলাকৰ বিষয়ে তেওঁ আমাক লিপিবদ্ধ কৰা হৈছে আমাৰ পাঠ্যপুথিত. হেগেলছ পাৰ্সপেক্টিভৰ মতে তেওঁ যিখিনি উদাৰ ৰাজ্যবোৰ আছে কেনেদৰে সংগঠিত কৰিব পাৰি আৰু সেই বিষয়ে আলোচনা কৰে আৰু চৰকাৰৰ এক যিখিনি ধাৰণা সেই ধাৰণাখিনি তেওঁলোকে নীতিগতভাৱে কেনেদৰে আলোচনা কৰিব পাৰি সেইখিনি বিষয়ে তেওঁ বিশেষভাৱে আলোচনা কৰিছিল আৰু যিখিনি ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট বা এছেঞ্চিয়েল উপাদান আছিল চৰকাৰৰ যিবিলাক উপাদান সেই হিচাপে অসামৰিক সেৱাৰ ভূমিকা সমাপ্ত কৰিছিল আৰু যিখিনি আকৰ্ষণীয়ভাৱে হেগেলে এক সাৰ্বজনীন শ্ৰেণী হিচাপে অসামৰিক সেৱা বুলি ভূমিকা তাক বজাই ৰাখিছিল আৰু যিহেতু তেওঁলোকৰ কাৰ্যকলাপ সমাপ্তি হৈছিলে সাৰ্বজনীন আগ্ৰহ আৰু ইয়াৰ উপলব্ধি কৰাৰ ওপৰত এটা সাৰ্বজনীন আগ্ৰহ থাকিব লাগিব আৰু তাক উপলব্ধি কৰিব লাগিব. হেগেলৰ যিটো চিষ্টেম একৰ্ডিং টু G.W. হেগেল, চ' তেওঁ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ যিটো ধাৰণা সেই ধাৰণাটো ৰাজ্যৰ ইচ্ছা হিচাপে সংজ্ঞায়িত কৰি উচ্চ স্তৰলৈ উঠাইছিল আৰু ইয়াক এক অতীন্দ্ৰিয় সত্তা বুলি তেওঁ ব্যক্তিগত মনৰ পৰা এটা মন বুলি বিবেচনা কৰিছিল. চ' আধুনিক আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বাবে হেগেলটো হৈছে তেওঁৰ যিখিনি কল্পনা আৰু সংগঠনৰ যিখিনি বৈশিষ্ট্য সেই বৈশিষ্ট্যবোৰৰ ভিতৰত আছে নিম্নলিখিত বিশেষত্বসমূহ. প্ৰথমে আমি চাব লাগিব যিটো কওঁ আমি অথৰিটি. কিছুমান বিশেষত্ব আমি দেখা পাওঁ হেগেলৰ চিন্তাধাৰাত. আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ এটা যিহেতু এটা আধুনিক সংগঠন, চৰকাৰী সংগঠন, আধুনিক চৰকাৰী সংগঠনটোৰ কিছুমান আমি বিশেষত্ব থাকিব লাগিব য'ত আমি কৰ্তৃত্ব থাকিব লাগিব, অথৰিটি, পদানুক্ৰমিক নীতি থাকিব লাগিব আৰু ইয়াৰ পদবীৰ পৰা পৃথকীকৰণ দায়িত্ব থাকিব লাগিব আৰু প্ৰতিযোগিতাৰ জৰিয়তে যোগ্যতাৰ আধাৰিত নিযুক্তি আৰু স্থিৰ পৰিশ্ৰমিক যিখিনি আমি প্ৰতিযোগিতাৰ জৰিয়তে যোগ্যতা আধাৰিত নিযুক্তি এইখিনি আমি আমাৰ বুকছত আমি পাই আহিছোঁ যে কেনেদৰে এফিচিয়েণ্ট এজন অফিচিয়েলছ আমি চিলেক্ট কৰিব পাৰোঁ. চ' ইয়াতে ষ্টেটৰ বিষয়ে তেওঁ বিশেষভাৱে আলোচনা কৰিছে. The organization characterized Hegel's emphasis for a modern bureaucracy includes following features: functional of division authority, principle of hierarchy, separation of office from incumbent, merit-based recruitment through competition, fixed remuneration, and exercise of authority in compliance to the common goods. So, common goods থাকিব লাগিব এইখিনিৰ ওপৰত তেওঁ বিশেষভাৱে আলোচনা কৰিছিল. So, according to Hegel, সাধাৰণ যিখিনি কল্যাণ অনুসৰণত কৰ্তৃত্ব প্ৰয়োগ কৰা হৈছিল সেইদৰে বিশ্বাস কৰিছিল যে এই সমতাবাদীসকলৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত কিছুমান এই বৈশিষ্ট্য যিবিলাক আমি ক'লোঁ মেৰিট বেচিছ ৰিক্ৰুটমেণ্ট হওক বা ফিক্সড ৰেমুনাৰেশ্যনেই হওক বা প্ৰিন্সিপল অফ হায়াৰাৰ্কি হওক বা ছেপাৰেশ্যন অফ অফিচ ফৰ্ম হওক এই গোটেইখিনি বস্তু এটা বৈশিষ্ট্য হিচাপে তেওঁ লৈছিল আৰু এই বৈশিষ্ট্যবিলাকৰ ওপৰত আমোলাতান্ত্ৰিক গাঁথনি কেতিয়াও আটাইতকৈ উপযুক্ত প্ৰশাসনিক সংগঠন হিচাপে গণ্য কৰা নহ'ব বুলি তেওঁ এই সমতাবাদীৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত প্ৰয়োগ কৰা নহ'ব বুলি তেওঁ কৈছিল। সমতাবাদীসকলৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত কি হয়, এই উপৰোক্ত বৈশিষ্ট্যবোৰৰ ওপৰত আধাৰিত এক আমোলাতন্ত্ৰিক গাঁথনিক কেতিয়াও আটাইতকৈ উপযুক্ত প্ৰশাসনিক ইয়াতে কি হয়, সমতাবাদীত প্ৰশাসনিক বিষয়াজন তেওঁলোকৰ ভাল নহ'ব পাৰে তেওঁলোকে বিবেচনা কৰিছিল, বা তেওঁ সেইটো মেৰিটছ থাকিব পাৰে, বা তেওঁ কম্পিটিশ্যনৰ জৰিয়তে বিষয়া যে হৈছে সেইটোৰ মানে তেওঁৰ কোনো যোগ্যতা নাথাকিব পাৰে বুলি তেওঁ বিবেচনা কৰিছিল। আৰু আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত তেওঁলোকৰ যিটো দৃষ্টিভংগী, সেই দৃষ্টিভংগী বেলেগ বেলেগ যিখিনি তেওঁলোকৰ ভিউজ আছে, সেই ভিউজবিলাকৰ ভিতৰত তেওঁ এটা কনচিডাৰ্ড ইট ইজ এটা ট্ৰেন্সেণ্ডেণ্ট এণ্টিটি হিচাপে তেওঁ লৈছিল এ মাইণ্ড এবভ দ্য ইণ্ডিভিজুৱেল মাইণ্ডছ। চ' তেওঁ বেলেগ বেলেগ যিখিনি চিন্তাধাৰা ব্যক্তি আছে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰত, তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি যোগ্যতা, সেই যোগ্যতাবিলাক তেওঁ বিভিন্ন সময়ত বেলেগ বেলেগ পদবীৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত হওক, বা প্ৰতিযোগিতাৰ জৰিয়তে হওক, বা স্থিৰ পাৰিশ্ৰমিকৰ জৰিয়তে হওক, বা কিছুমান কৰ্তৃত্বৰ জৰিয়তে হওক, বেলেগ বেলেগ সময়ত তেওঁ বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ বৈশিষ্ট্য আমাক তেওঁ দেখুৱাইছে যে কিদৰে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ এই বৈশিষ্ট্যবিলাক থাকিব লাগিব, তেতিয়াহে এজন সুস্থ বিষয়া বা সুস্থ প্ৰশাসনিক বিষয়া আমি শীৰ্ষস্থানত তেওঁক নিযুক্ত কৰিব পাৰিম, বা কিদৰে তেওঁ নিয়োজিত হৈ চৰকাৰৰ কাৰ্যবিলাক সমাধান কৰিব পাৰিব, বা আমাৰ দেশখন পৰিচালনা কৰিব পাৰিব। আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সৰ দৃষ্টিভংগী। চ' একৰ্ডিং টু কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্স, আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত কি হয়, কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সৰ প্ৰভাৱ পুঁজিবাদী সমাজৰ পটভূমি নিৰ্ধাৰণ কৰা হৈছিল, আৰু বিশেষকৈ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ যিখিনি আমাৰ পুঁজিবাদী ভাৱ আছে, কেপিটেলিজম আছে, আমি আগতে পাই আহিছোঁ যে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত মাৰ্ক্সৰ কেপিটেলিজম ছিষ্টেম, যিটো পুঁজিবাদী সমাজ, তাৰ এটা পটভূমিত নিৰ্ধাৰণ কৰিছিল, আৰু সাৰ্বজনীন স্বাৰ্থ বজাই ৰখাৰ ওপৰত গুৰুত্ব দিয়া হৈছিল। তেওঁ কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সে পুঁজিবাদক তেওঁ সমালোচনা কৰিছিলে, আৰু সদায় তেওঁ সাৰ্বজনীন স্বাৰ্থ বা জেনেৰেল ক্লাছ বা লোৱাৰ ক্লাছৰ স্বাৰ্থৰ ওপৰত তেওঁ বিশেষভাৱে গুৰুত্ব দিছিলে। আমি যিহেতু জানো যে কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সৰ যিটো শ্ৰেণী বিভাজন তেওঁ বিচৰা নাছিলে। তেওঁ যিটো জনকল্যাণ হ'ব, য'ত কল্যাণ ৱেলফেয়াৰ হ'ব লাগে, সকলোৰে কল্যাণ হ'ব লাগে, তেনেকুৱা এটা ধৰণৰ তেওঁ মত পোষণ কৰিছিলে। চ' মাৰ্ক্সে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক এক নিৰ্দিষ্ট আৰ্থ-সামাজিক প্ৰেক্ষাপটত উদ্ভাৱিত সম্পৰ্কৰ এক সমষ্টি হিচাপে নিৰীক্ষণ কৰিছিলে। মাৰ্ক্সৰ মতে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ হৈছে এক চক্ৰ য'ৰ পৰা কোনো পলায়ন কৰিব নোৱাৰে। একৰ্ডিং টু কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্স, ইয়াৰ অধিক্ৰম হৈছে জ্ঞানৰ অধিক্ৰম, আৰু শীৰ্ষস্তৰীয় বিষয়াই বিস্তৃত বোধৰ বোজা নিম্নস্তৰীয় ওপৰত ন্যস্ত নকৰে, আৰু নিম্ন স্তৰে শীৰ্ষ স্তৰক সাধাৰণ বোধৰ কৃতিত্ব দিয়ে, আৰু সেয়ে সকলো পাৰস্পৰিকভাৱে প্ৰতাৰিত হয়। The bureaucracy is a circle from which no one can escape. So ইয়াতে কোনো escape হ'ব নোৱাৰে। Its hierarchy is a hierarchy of knowledge. The top interest of the understanding to detail to the lower level with lower level. Which lower level is credited top to the understanding of the general, and so are the mutually decisive. So এইখিনি বস্তু কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সে ক'ব বিচাৰিছে যে পৰ্যবেক্ষণত শক্তিক বা তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি চিন্তা চৰ্চা আছে, সেই চিন্তা চৰ্চাত পাৱাৰে কেনেদৰে সাধাৰণ শ্ৰেণীৰ উপস্থিতি আৰু সমাজৰ যিখিনি আমাৰ ইকনমিক পাৰ্ট আছে, সেই ইকনমিক পাৰ্টৰ ডেভেলপমেণ্টৰ কাৰণে আৰু উৎপাদনৰ কাৰণে সৈতে জড়িত হয়, ইয়াৰ ইটো সিটোৰ লগত কেনেদৰে সম্পৰ্ক আছে, সেইখিনি সম্পৰ্ক বুলি বুজা হয়, আৰু ৰাজ্যত সেইবিলাক তেওঁলোকে বেলেগ বেলেগ ষ্টেপত আগবঢ়াই নিব লাগে বুলি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক তেওঁলোকে মত পোষণ কৰিছিলে। একৰ্ডিং টু কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্স, আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ ওপৰত যিখিনি তেওঁৰ আধাৰ আছিলে, সেই আধাৰটো ৰাজনৈতিক অৰ্থনৈতিক দৃষ্টিভংগীৰ দ্বাৰা আঁতৰ কৰিব পাৰি, য'ত পুঁজিবাদী সমাজৰ এজন শ্ৰেণীৰ দ্বাৰা এই স্থিতিৰ পৰা প্ৰকট হোৱা শক্তি। এই সন্দৰ্ভত মাৰ্ক্সে দেখিছিল যে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ ৰাজ্যৰ এটা দমনমূলক চৰিত্ৰক এক্সিবিট কৰা এক সঁজুলি কম নহয়, য'ত তেওঁ ৰাজনৈতিক তত্ত্বৰ ওপৰত প্ৰাথমিক যিখিনি অনুমান আছে, সেই অনুমানক তেওঁ যিখিনি প্ৰাইমেৰী এটা তেওঁ অনুমান কৰিছিলে, সেই অনুমানক তেওঁ মুকলিকৈ এটা চেলেঞ্জ কৰিছিলে। আৰু এই হেগেল যিদৰে হেগেল এক অন্তৰ্দৃষ্টি সম্পন্ন প্ৰতিষ্ঠান হিচাপে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ ধাৰণা কৰিছিল, যাৰ জনস্বাৰ্থৰ প্ৰতি প্ৰতিফলন কৰাৰ ক্ষমতা আছে। অৱশ্যে মাৰ্ক্সে জনসাধাৰণৰ যিখিনি সমস্যা তাৰ প্ৰতি মাত মাতি ইয়াৰ আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ স্থিতিৰ ওপৰত এটা প্ৰশ্ন উত্থাপন কৰিছিল। চ' জনস্বাৰ্থৰ ওপৰত তেওঁ বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণে তেওঁ বহুতো সময়ত তেওঁ আমাৰ বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ ব্যাখ্যা তেওঁ আমাক আগবঢ়াইছে আৰু বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ প্ৰশ্ন উত্থাপন কৰি আছে বা সময়ে সময়ে তেওঁ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ আলোচনা আমাৰ বিষয়ত আমাৰ আগবঢ়াই আহিছে। চ' মাৰ্ক্সৰ এই জনসাধাৰণৰ সমস্যাবোৰৰ প্ৰতি মাত মাতি যিখিনি স্থিতি আছে সেই স্থিতিৰ ওপৰত তেওঁ কিছুমান বিভিন্ন প্ৰশ্ন উত্থাপন কৰি আহিছে। সেইবিলাক বৰ্ণনা কৰিবলৈ মাৰ্ক্সে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ বিশেষত্ববোৰ পৰীক্ষা কৰোঁতে আৰু যেনে কিছুমান পদানুক্ৰমিক ছিষ্টেম আছে তেওঁলোকৰ, সেই পদানুক্ৰমিক ছিষ্টেম আৰু কাৰ্যকৰী যিখিনি পৃথকীকৰণ আছে আৰু ডিফাৰেঞ্চিয়েশ্যন হয় কাৰ্যকৰীতালৈ, আৰু যিখিনি দৃঢ়তাৰে তেওঁ বস্তুবিলাক নিয়াৰিকৈ কৰি গৈছিল, য'ত কৈছিল যে কেৱল পদস্থসকলৰ অযোগ্যতাৰ নেতৃত্ব দিব পাৰে। ত' যিবিলাক পদস্থ থাকে তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি অযোগ্যতা থাকে সেই যোগ্যতাৰ নেতৃত্ব দিব পাৰে এই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰই। আৰু গোটেইখিনি তেওঁ এখন পুথি সন্নিৱিষ্টত আমি পাম যে মোহিত ভট্টাচাৰ্যই লিখিছিলে যে আমোলাতন্ত্ৰিক যিখিনি অযোগ্যতা আছে সেই অযোগ্যতাৰ ওপৰত মাৰ্ক্সৰ পৰ্যবেক্ষণ সাৰাংশ এনেদৰে কয় যে উচ্চপদস্থ বিষয়াই গোচৰটোৰ নিৰ্দিষ্টতা নাজানে আৰু যিখিনি অধীনস্থ সাধাৰণ অধ্যক্ষসকলক জানে যে তেওঁৱেই পৰিস্থিতিক সামগ্ৰিকতাৰ প্ৰশংসা কৰিব নোৱাৰে। এই গোটেইখিনি তেওঁ ষ্টেপ বাই ষ্টেপ কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সে যিখিনি সাধাৰণ জনসাধাৰণ আছে সেই তেওঁলোকৰ পৰিস্থিতিবিলাকৰ সামগ্ৰিক এটা প্ৰশংসা কৰিব নোৱাৰে বা সেই পৰিস্থিতিটো কেনেদৰে চলিব লাগে সেই বিষয়ে তেওঁ এটা থুলমূলকৈ আলোচনাত আগবঢ়াইছিল। আৰু যিখিনি পুঁজিবাদী সমাজ আছিলে সেই পুঁজিবাদী সমাজৰ তেওঁ সদায় বিৰোধিতা কৰিছিল। আৰু বিৰোধী আগ্ৰহৰ বাবে মাৰ্ক্সে দেখিলে যে ৰাজ্যৰ ভূমিকা এক বেলেগ ধৰণৰ এটা অহংকাৰী এটা আগ্ৰহৰ বাহিৰে আন একো নহয়। তেওঁ দেখিছে যে বিউৰক্ৰেচিটো হৈছে এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বস্তু যেন ৰাজ্যৰ কিছুমান এটা দাম্ভিক ব্যক্তি বা অহংকাৰী ব্যক্তি যিসকলে এই সাধাৰণ শ্ৰেণীৰ লোকক সদায় শোষণ কৰি আছে। চ' তেনেকুৱা এটা ভিউ তেওঁ কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সে আমাৰ ছ'চাইটিক আগবঢ়াইছিলে। আৰু বিউৰক্ৰেচিৰ জৰিয়তে তেওঁ কৈছিল যে কিদৰে এটা পুঁজিবাদী শ্ৰেণীয়ে আন তলৰ শ্ৰেণীৰ লোকক প্ৰলিটাৰীবিলাকক কেপিটেলিষ্টবিলাকে কিদৰে শাসন কৰি আছে বা তেওঁলোকে যিদৰে শোষিত হৈ আছে সেই শোষিতবিলাকে কেতিয়াও উচ্চ স্তৰত যাব পৰা নাই, তেওঁলোকে মাত মাতিব পৰা নাই বা তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি ভূমিকা আছে ভূমিকাখিনি কৰিব পৰা নাই, ভূমিকাখিনি কৰোঁতে তেওঁলোকে সদায় পিছ পৰি আহিছে। আৰু যিখিনি পুঁজিবাদী লোক আছে পুঁজিবাদীবিলাকে পুঁজিবাদী অৰ্থাৎ তেওঁ বিউৰক্ৰেচিক মিন কৰিছে, তেওঁলোকে তেওঁলোকৰ ভূমিকাত যিখিনি অহংকাৰী আগ্ৰহ আছে সেইবিলাক প্ৰকাশ পাইছে, য'ত জনস্বাৰ্থ ভাৱটো নিহিত হৈ নাথাকে। আৰু এজন ব্যক্তি আছে দ্বিবেদীয়ে, তেওঁ 1985ত লক্ষ্য কৰিছিল যে মাৰ্ক্সে এনে সংগ্ৰামৰ নিৰপেক্ষ সম্প্ৰদায় সলনি কৰি আন্তঃসামাজিক শ্ৰেণী সংগ্ৰাম, যিটো আমাৰ ক্লাছ ষ্ট্ৰাগল বুলি কওঁ, সেই শ্ৰেণী সংগ্ৰাম প্ৰণয়নত ৰাজ্যক এক পক্ষপাতী সঁজুলি হিচাপে গণ্য কৰিছিল। চ' সেইখিনি সময়ত মাৰ্ক্সে কি হৈছিলে, এটা সময়ত এনে সংগ্ৰামৰ নিৰপেক্ষ তেওঁ এটা সময়ত এটা কাৰ্ল মাৰ্ক্সৰ শ্ৰেণী সংগ্ৰাম যিটো আমি আগতে পাই আহিছোঁ বেলেগ বেলেগ ক্ষেত্ৰত। চ' এই ক্লাছিফিকেশ্যন যিটো তেওঁ ছিষ্টেম বা ক্লাছ ষ্ট্ৰাগল শ্ৰেণী সংগ্ৰাম, এই সংগ্ৰামত ৰাজ্যত এক বেলেগ ধৰণৰ এটা সেইখিনি সময়ত এটা জাগৰণৰ সৃষ্টি হৈছিলে, য'ত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ এটা বিশেষভাৱে পক্ষপাতী সঁজুলি হিচাপে গণ্য কৰা হৈছিলে। আৰু এজন চিন্তাবিদ মিশ্ৰৰ মতে 1977ত মাৰ্ক্সৰ সেইটো আঙুলিয়াই দিছিলে ৰাজ্যৰ এক স্বতন্ত্ৰ সত্তা নাছিলে যিয়ে নিজৰ যিখিনি ইণ্টেলেকচুৱেল নৈতিক আৰু মুক্তিবাদী যিখিনি ধাৰণা সেই মুক্তিবাদী ধাৰণাৰ ওপৰত যিখিনি তেওঁৰ অৰ্থনৈতিক প্ৰভাৱশালী শ্ৰেণীৰ নিৰ্দেশিত কিছুমান নিয়ন্ত্ৰণ কৰা আৰু ৰাজ্যৰ এক সঁজুলি আৰু এজেণ্ট হিচাপে বিবেচনা কৰিছিল। চ' ইয়াত যিখিনি আমোলাতন্ত্ৰ আছে সেই আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ অৰ্থনৈতিকভাৱে যিখিনি প্ৰভাৱশালী শ্ৰেণী আছে তেওঁলোকক বিশেষভাৱে তেওঁ বিবেচনা কৰিছিলে যে চৰকাৰৰ এজেণ্ট হিচাপে। মাৰ্ক্সে ৰাজ্যিক আমোলাতন্ত্ৰক তত্ত্বাৱধায়ক কৰাৰ ওপৰত এক তেওঁলোকৰ যিখিনি সলনি কৰা গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ লেন্সৰ জৰিয়তে তেওঁলোকে বেলেগ বেলেগ ক্ষেত্ৰত তেওঁলোকে তত্ত্বাৱধায়ক সলনি কৰি এটা গুৰুত্বপূৰ্ণ ভূমিকা তেওঁলোকে গ্ৰহণ কৰিছিলে। মাৰ্কছৰ নিজৰ ভাষাত আমোলাতন্ত্ৰৰ সাধাৰণ মনোভাৱ হৈছে গোপনীয় আৰু তেওঁলোকে যিকে নিৰাপদভাৱে নিজৰ ভিতৰত পদানুক্ৰমৰ দ্বাৰা আৰু ইয়াৰ বিভিন্ন প্ৰকৃতিৰ দ্বাৰা এক সহযোগিতা হিচাপে বা একটা বান্ধন সহযোগিতা হিচাপে তেওঁলোকে ইয়াৰ বেলেগ বেলেগ ধৰণে ইয়াৰ চিন্তাৰ বাহিৰত তেওঁলোকে কাম কৰিছিলে চ' কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছৰ থিয়ৰিখিনি ইয়াতে শেষ হৈছে নেক্সট পৰ্যায়টো আমি ইয়াৰ পাঠ্যক্ৰমৰ নেক্সট ক্লাছত আমি আলোচনা কৰিম আজিৰ ক্লাছটো ইয়াতে সমাপ্ত হৈছে